As the blood-red water bubbled, the herb essences began to be gradually absorbed into Huang Yuli's body. Very quickly the basin of water became transparent like normal water, but still continued to bubble. At this point, Huang Yuli's tightly closed eyes opened, her eyes flashing a golden color. Sitting up, her mind finally became sober once more. At the same time, she felt as if her entire body had been reborn. Although the herbal essences had been absorbed into her body, turning into clear water, but the true phoenix flames continued to heat the waters. To ordinary people, it was still quite hot to the touch. However, this temperature did not make her feel any discomfort. On the contrary, she felt as if she returned to her infant days, her whole body full of vitality. It was like the power of these flames were a part of her body. Every cell in her body clamoring to obtain this power. A ghost of smile appeared on her face. So this is the flame spirit physique. It was even more amazing than her previous 9th grade fire-attributed talent. She was just quietly sitting there, yet she could feel the surrounding fire elements scrambling to her direction. Waving her hand, the burning phoenix true flames flickered a bit, but did not seem to resist her too much. She easily absorbed it into her body. This female devil, you, squatting to the side, the little phoenix stared at this scene with an open mouth. Just now he thought that this poison-tongued woman would be cooked in the tub, almost scaring this baby to death. When he thought of this possibility, for her to open her eyes again, little Phoenix felt secretly happy for her. But out of his expectations, her next action stunned him so much that his eyes almost fell out. She actually absorbed the true Phoenix fire into her body? He didn't see wrong, did he? Although the high-leveled fire-attributed practitioners could refine fires into their bodies as a means of attack. But that as the first of the top 10 fire rankings, the true Phoenix flame are, even in the God realm, wanting to refine the true Phoenix fire, that was something only top-level geniuses could do. As for a lower realm such like the Tianling continent, this kind of thing was simply unheard of. Although Huang Yu Li currently possessed the flame spirit physique, geniuses with the flame spirit physique were not a few. Those who could obtain the true Phoenix flame in their teens numbered 0. Besides, even if one could just barely refine it, the entire process is extremely difficult. They needed to go through all kinds of painful torments. If there are no experienced elders aiding from the side, it will be easy to go berserk. But this female devil? She waved her hand. Then, after a stiff-faced expression, Huang Yu Li finally revealed a smile. Although this little ghost was usually very arrogant, it still knew to worry about his owner in key moments. Finally, those buckets of chicken legs were not bought in vain. Stinking brat, your worry over this elder sister makes her so move. But are you not some tall and grand mythological phoenix? How are you not embarrassed by your frequent crying? Aren't you ashamed? Huang Yu Li lightly teased him. Momentarily shocked, the little phoenix immediately recovered himself and jumped up angrily. You can also listen on. Who are you accusing of crying? This little lord does not cry. Humph. Small Phoenix denied this in a flustered manner, but could not help himself to feel worry. Cautiously, he touched his plump-like bun's cheeks. The result, he did not feel anything. Ha. Seeing him fall for her trick, Huang Yu Li laughed out with no reservations. You played me. Discovering he had been played a fool, the little phoenix became more crazy. Female devil, why did you not burn to death? Where is the justice in the world? Laughingly, Huang Yu Li replied, Oh, still small in age but already beginning to curse at others. Your upbringing was really bad. Seems like this elder sister needs to educate you. What do you want to do? Small eyes staring at her, he subconsciously to cover his buttocks. This unconscious action caused another round of laughter to erupt from Huang Yu Li. Although she had hit this little one's but only once, but it was enough to scare this one. Though this cheeky lad usually portrayed a lofty attitude, in reality, he was quite timid. She can exploit this in the future. When the little phoenix saw the trace of a devilish smile, a burst of cool sweat formed on his back. Instinctively he retreated a few steps and carefully asked, Hey, female devil, the bathwater is now cold, why do you not come out? Throwing him an eye roll, she replied, there is still a little effect left. I'll soak in it for a bit longer and not waste the remaining essences." At a loss, the little phoenix thought for a while before abruptly jumping up from the corner. Without much fear, he laughed out loudly. "Ha ha ha, I know why. Female devil, since you are not wearing clothes, you don't dare come out. Hey, let this little lord tell you. In fact, this little lord saw everything quite clearly. Your body is really lacking. Oh." This little lord couldn't really differentiate which side was the front and which was the back. The sight practically polluted this little lord's eyes. Assuming he held a leverage over Huang Yu Li, the little phoenix immediately felt elated. In truth, he did not see anything at all. During that time, not only was he too nervous, the color of the waters was so deep. Although he did not see anything, he could not give up an opportunity to ridicule at this female devil. Usually, he was the victim to her constant scoldings and beatings, so when he saw her nervous expression, he must retaliate. After all, the female devil was not wearing any clothes. So she certainly could not jump out to catch him. Plump cheeks red from excitement, his small chin was raised as he looked at her with squinted eyes and a wide toothful grin. You could not describe his happiness. But unexpectedly, Huang Yu Li smiled. "Stinking brat, since you saw something you should not see, you cannot blame me for the appropriate punishment. You are now forbidden to eat your beloved chicken drumsticks." As she said this, she recovered the little phoenix back into the sky phoenix ring in one swift move. Little Phoenix did not expect this trick from her. Finding himself locked up, the little boy began to anxiously and desperately jump and scream in the jade ring. "Female devil, release me. Release me. This little lord is warning you, if you dare to treat such a distinguished phoenix like this, you will be cursed. Hi, forget it. As long as you release, I will not scold you later, okay? Boo-hoo, you are so heartless, abusing even children. Not eating chicken legs for a few minutes, my waist has already slimmed." At first, he tried a harsh tone, but found that Huang Yu Li did not budge. Thus he resorted to a softer tacit, but it also yielded poor results. Almost laughing out from his actions, Huang Yu Li quickly disconnected her consciousness. You can also listen on. This stinking brat really needed to be taught a lesson. She did not know who he was learning from recently, but he spoke like a thug at such a young age. TSK, daring to even talk back at his master. If he continued to be like this as a child, what will he grow up to become? Suddenly, Huang Yu Li recalled the scene when she first entered the Sky Phoenix ring. Seeing that phoenix on the platform, Wang Cai seemed to say that it was his brother, a real ancient and grand phoenix. That large phoenix possessed his own charisma, masculine, unrestrained, shocking. But this bad character of his, it wouldn't be heredity. Though, in summary, in order to correct this little boy's bad attitude, she must keep him under house arrest for a while. In a good mood, Huang Yu Li stepped out from the tub. Putting on some clean clothes, she lazily stretched out. It had been quite a long time since she experienced the feeling of possessing strength. Her body was practically at one with the worldly energy around her. As long as she beckoned, profound qi filled her entire being with ease. Face lighting up with a smile, she pulled out 9 phoenix transformations and began to carefully read it. In order to defend against the possibility of cultivators of the 9 phoenix transformations from going berserk, she was only capable of reading the first few pages. Only when she mastered the contents in the first section will the latter stages be unlocked. According to the instructions in the manual, since she had successfully broken through the bottleneck, she would be able to display the domineering powerful of her flame spirit physique. And since the flame spirit physique is also considered a rare and top-level talent, in terms of cultivational advantage, it was said to be overwhelming. Not only will they be naturally aligned with the fire attribute, their cultivational will also be 10 times faster than ordinary 9th grade talent. Furthermore, all possessors of the spirit physiques have all-system talent. Reading through the manual, her hands shook. This shake nearly ripped the pages. Other attributes may not be as outstanding as the fire attribute, but they would at least be 9th grade talent. Did they make a mistake? Was this manual writing nonsense? Feeling her face twitch, Huang Yu Li could not believe it. This couldn't be true. Although she heard the little phoenix speak of it, that the flame spirit physique was very, very rare, but all system talent? This is too much nonsense. In her previous life, with her 9th grade fire talent and her 7th grade metal talent, she was already considered a peerless genius in the Tianling continent. With such amazing talent, she not only did she become the sole 9th tier armament master in the continent, she also successfully at the 25 years old, broke through to the 9th stage, the Emperor Profound Realm. Second only to Mu Chengying, to reach the 9th stage in her 20s. Yet this manual was telling her, the grand 9th grade talent of her previous life, was only a passing advantage that the flame spirit physique possessed in it various advantages. It was not worth mentioning at all. This. Although this book originates from the God realm, but Huang Yu Li still doubted the credibility of it. If this was true, then her talent scared even herself. Oh, whether it's true or fake, I cannot waste any more time. I must quickly begin to cultivate the 9 phoenix transformations. Shaking her vigorously to rid herself of all negative thoughts and distractions, she began to read the first pages. Then, sitting cross-legged on the floor, she held her breath and recited the meditative chant. Following that, she started to absorb the profound qi around her. You can also listen on. As Huang Yu Li activated the technique, before she could process anything, profound qi began to frantically surge towards her dantian. It took only an instant for her to absorb it into her body. Unceasingly, the large and powerful profound qi traveled and entered her 12 meridians. Feeling only a slight buzzing sensation in her mind, Huang Yu Li sensed all her meridians had linked up. She had entered the qi profound realm. She was frightened by her own progress. That speed was just too shocking. Her previous self with her 9th grade talent still took an entire night to successfully together all her meridians. That kind of result was already considered a very world-shaking record. For a common cultivator with 3rd to 4th grade talent, they needed to spend a year's worth of time to successfully enter the ranks of martial practitioners. While the current her used at most 2 breaths of time to reach the qi profound realm. Furthermore, before she could react and cry out in surprise, she felt the profound qi within her veins concentrate together again. Not only did it become denser, it began to increase in a frantic manner. Soon after, she felt herself break through the 1st level of the qi profound realm. Afterwards, the 2nd level of the qi profound realm, 3rd level, 4th level. The increasing of profound qi seemed to have no end. Madly, it entered her body and repeatedly broke through each successive level. Sitting motionlessly on the soft mat, Huang Yu Li's body began to release a faint light. And like a magnet, the heaven and earthly profound qi coalesced towards her. For other cultivators, they needed to use and think up all kinds of methods to enter a meditative state. Only by using all of their sparse profound qi, were they able to, with great difficulty, absorb the heaven and earthly profound qi into them. And if they wished to advance to the next level, they must use increased periods of time to accumulate the necessary amounts. Repeatedly trying to advance. Some even needed the support of specific pills to aid them in climbing this wall. But for Huang Yu Li, she practically used no effort. No, she merely chanted the cultivation technique at the very beginning. As for the rest of the work, she did not exert any effort for the profound qi to so frantically enter into her body. Under such an aggressive profound qi assault, she passively advanced in levels. In fact, even if she wished to stop, she could not stop this advancement at all. Profound qi realm, 7th level. Bai Ruo Qi had started her cultivation from the age of 10. Bitterly she cultivated for 5 years, and with the aid of numerous pills was she then able to reach the profound qi realm 7th level. And at such a speed, it was enough to everyone to dub the title of genius on her. This allowed her to become the most influential and powerful aristocratic daughter of South Yu. Yet, Huang Yu Li used only a few breaths to catch up to her current level. Furthermore, she did not stop there. There was just no end in sight. Qi Profound Realm, 8th level. Qi Profound Realm, 9th level. In a blink of an eye, Huang Yu Li reached the peak of the Qi Profound Realm. She was only a single step away from entering the defensive Profound Realm. How many countless practitioners struggled to reach this peak, yet this was right in front of her eyes. But it was at this moment, did she sense of a feeling of obstruction. She did not break through into the defensive profound realm like a knife cutting through butter. In fact, she stopped there. Calming down after her wild absorption, Huang Yuli's eyebrows wrinkled. She did not expect such a momentum surge of profound qi was incapable of promoting her to the next realm. But this task was certainly not a simple task. Advancing to the next large stage required some time and effort. It is quite normal to suffer a obstruction. Taking in a breath of air, Huang Yuli started once again. Taking up the Ning Phoenix transformations technique, she planned of assailing and leaping straight over to the second stage. You can also listen on. Full of confidence, Huang Yuli believed that she would be able to pass without a doubt. Her body was brimming with profound qi, while all of the surrounding fire elements conjugated around her. She could clearly sense all the changes in her system, and her control over the fire element had become more fine-tuned, bending to her every will. But it was at that moment that blockage once again appeared. Failing due to a final push. What is going on? Face flushed, Huang Yuli nearly cursed out. Clearly her journey and absorption of profound qi were all very smooth. Yet she was unable to break through. What joke was this? Didn't the 9 Phoenix transformations claim to be a god-level cultivation technique? Furthermore, wasn't she some flame spirit physique? Doesn't it sound majestic? So why did she meet with a bottleneck after cultivating for such a short duration? Isn't this too unscientific? Ending her cultivation, Huang Yuli picked up the 9 Phoenix transformation manual and flicked through it. Under the previous writings, she discovered a new set of characters. Hurriedly she skimmed the words and the stopped. Unable to believe her eyes, they widened at the discovery. Then, she reread the passage again. This time with greater attention before finally swearing out, "Crap! Such a fraudful technique. Do you need to deceive me like this? Are techniques passed down from the god realm all this abnormal?" According to the books, reaching the peak of Qi profound realm allowed her to advance her affinity with the fire element. Once she was able to gather all of the fire elements around her, she would have successfully learnt the first transformation of the 9 Phoenix transformations, Fire Spirit. Turns out, I have already practiced the first transformation of the 9 Phoenix transformations. I am quite fast. According to the book, it would take roughly a year for a 9th grade talent to succeed in this step. So comparatively speaking, Huang Yuli was the abnormal one. Realizing this point, she felt quite elated. But as she read further, the contents of the next portion shattered her good spirits. Although the speed of cultivation for a flame spirit physique cultivating the 9 Phoenix transformations are quite astounding, they will experience a bottleneck each time they practice a new transformation. Apart from hard work and cultivation, one also needs to gather the corresponding herbs and spirit stones to arouse one's potential. Otherwise, they would be unable to break through. Huang Yuli nearly blew her top, so the assignment of herb gathering was not a one-time thing. Every time I break through, I must gather higher-ranked herbs. This is such a scam. Will there be an end to this? Furiously, Huang Yuli threw the manual onto the tabletop. The originally happiness that came from lightning fast advancement had now all be sweep away. This is like someone who believed they had won the lotto, only to realize they could only take a portion of the money. They felt happiness at the start, only to be replaced by much more disappointment. But Huang Yuli sat next to the bed for a while. Very quickly, she adjusted her state of mind. The more heaven-defying one's talent was, the more resources they will need. After all, the flame spirit physique is originally from the god realm. To the abnormal requirements for resources is also quite normal. This was reality that could not be changed, no matter how much she blamed and accused the heavens. What's more, she was already quite fortunate to be born with such a heaven-opposing constitution. She did not possess any qualifications for dissatisfaction. As for the future problems she will face, she could only slowly find the appropriate methods. She was the most intelligent person in the Tianlin continent and the most black-bellied female. Huang Yuli, was there anything that would stump her? You can also listen on. Retrieving the throne 9 Phoenix transformations, Huang Li wrote down the necessary ingredients needed to break through to the second layer. This time, the required materials needed were more ludicrous than last time. That was because the majority of the listed materials last time were medicinal herbs. Furthermore, they were not high-quality ones either. As long as you possessed enough money, you could purchase all of them. Whilst this time round, a good portion of the materials were high-leveled demonic stones. She required 9 5th-grade demonic beast stones, 4 6th-grade demonic beast stones and 1 7th-grade demonic beast stone. Not to mention, they all needed to be of the fire attribute. For Huang Li, this was too hard to accomplish. All 5th-grade demonic beast stones were set at astronomical prices. If she wished to purchase just one, it would be a hard-to-accomplish feat, let alone that many, and if she were to go hunt them by herself, her little strength was insufficient to take down a 5th-grade demonic beast. Disregarding finding one, she wasn't even qualified to enter the inner regions of Dark Moon Forest. And if she were to consider finding some people to assist her in taking down a 7th-grade demonic beast, they need to at least be in the top 20 of the entire South Sky region. Not mention the enormous expenditure, they wouldn't accept any commission. If an unknown nobody girl like her were to request their assistance, they would not acknowledge her. But apart from this road, suddenly, the owner of Thousand Treasure Pavilion passed through her mind. If it were that man, she wondered if he could deal with a 7th-grade demonic beast. No, it can't be. Although he had excellent talent, he was still young in age. At the tender age of 20, would he be stronger than Mu Chengying if he were able to deal with a 7th-grade demonic beast? Rising to the position of most powerful person in the history of Tianling continent, even Mu Chengying still only reached the 7th layer at the age of 20. Vigorously she shook her head, in an attempt to erase the man's figure from within her head. She thought too much. Regardless whether or not the man was truly that strong, even if he were a sky-profound realm expert, it was impossible for her to ask him for help. Huang Li was not a sloppy person towards love. Since she had made a concrete decision not to reciprocate the man's affections, she would no longer have any further interactions with him. She could not find it in herself to act like a white lotus, pure and innocent with exploiting his good intentions. She clearly knew she would be unable to return his feelings. It would be better to be straightforward. To clearly reject his intentions from the beginning, cutting through his unrealistic dreams. As a result, in the short term, it would be impossible for her to break through to the second layer. Wrinkling her eyebrows, Huang Li wasn't too worried. There were always alternative methods. She just needs time to think of some. It would also better for her to solve the more immediate problems in front of her. Putting the 9 phoenix transformations away, she entered the world of the Sky Phoenix Ring with a single thought. She wondered how the arrested little phoenix was faring. She made the appropriate preparations already. Each time, the little phoenix would definitely throw a big tantrum, destroying and creating chaos inside the Sky Phoenix Ring. The aftermath was similar to a storm had passing through. In the previous house arrests of this child, that had always been the end result. But the result this time surprised her. For a moment, Huang Li thought she had walked into the wrong place. The inner space of the Sky Phoenix Ring had expanded infinitely. Previously, she could describe the place as a room with a door. But now, this room seemed to have undergone a renovation, becoming completely different and brand new. Upgrading from a shabby and unfurnished room, to a lavious and bright living room. You can also listen on. The originally room empty, without the slightest bit of furnishment, now contained several cabinets. Walking over, Huang Li looked at them with a glint in her eyes. Inside each cabinet were a variety of practical objects. There were martial skills, cultivator pills, profound armaments, demonic stones, etc. Unfortunately, the demonic stones were very low grade, all first grade or second grade. Thinking for a moment, she came to an understanding. This is probably due to her successfully completing the first transformation. As a result, the extent of the upgrade was very limited. But if she continued to break through, the Sky Phoenix Ring will continue to upgrade and the level of treasures should also increase. As for martial skills and profound armaments, she did not hold much interest or use. But the pills are very useful for her. Second-level upper-grade pills are very precious in the small country of South Yu. So an entire bottle sell for tens of thousands of silvers. But this cabinet was filled to the brim. In addition, they were all of the fire attribute, coincidentally aligning with her fire attribute body. Seeing so many treasures placed before her, Huang Yuli felt very good. Picking out a few, she stashed a few useful bottles into her sleeves. But she did not find the little phoenix inside the room. Strange, where did that brat go? Looking left and right, she discovered a door had appeared inside this closed room. She gently pushed the door opened. What greeted her was a small garden outside. The garden was very small, about 300 meters square large. Half of the garden was covered in a field. The soil showing a dark red color and looking very fertile. But the field was now bare, nothing was sown. Whilst there were a few unknown weeds growing along the side, reaching to the height of the average human. A flash of surprise passed through Huang Yuli's eyes. After the upgrade of the Sky Phoenix ring, it was even capable of growing living things. Such a fortuitous discovery. Not only are space armaments rare in the Tianling continent, not even 9th-level space armaments are capable of storing life. At most, they can only host spirits like the little phoenix. But actual living bodies and plants could not enter. Armaments able to accommodate living creatures are top-quality profound armament. Her luck really was good. She had picked up a real treasure. Towards the right side of the garden, there was a small pond with water as clear as crystal. Looking into it, one could see colorful pebbles lining the bottom of the pond. A small plump figure was asleep just by the side, whose chubby cheeks were tilted to the side and mouth had a trail of suspicious liquid drooling out. Without waking him up, Huang Yuli squatted to the side and scooped up some water. Then in big gulps, she drank it. A cool and refreshing feeling instantly filled her body. While her dantian's profound qi surged in abundance while all fatigue and sleepiness were washed away. This is the legendary Spirit Saint Spring? As if she recalled something, Huang Yuli exposed a faint smile. This is a holy medicine for strengthening the physique and replenishing profound qi. So happy she was, she nearly cried out. In her old days, of all the numerous treasures Huang Yuli had discovered, none were more precious than this Spirit Saint Spring, because the most outstanding aspect of the Spirit Saint Spring was its ability to nourish the soul. The soul is the origin and fundamental essence of life for all life. Profound and spiritual power can all be improved through practice, but the strength of the soul is determined from the time of one's birth. You can also listen on. From birth, one's soul could only be harmed and weakened. It is very hard to create any obvious improvements. The soul's strength drastically limited and influenced the future development of a cultivator. Once it is damaged and not properly treated, although one's outer flesh would seem no different. But on more serious notes, one future cultivation will forever stagnate and never increase. For a cultivator, a decline in one's cultivation is 100 times more critical than a bottleneck. In addition to this, effects of such injuries will only fully display when a cultivator passed the 6th layer, with the disparity of the soul's power becoming obvious. Even cultivators of the same level, the difference in soul power would become more prominent in battle. It was due to her soul explosion, did Huang Yuli assumed her soul would dissipate and scatter. Yet now, without any cause or explanation, she experienced a rebirth. Though she clearly felt her soul was held half the power of her previous self. This is a very dangerous situation for her. Not only will it affect her cultivation, in the worst-case scenario, it could also threaten her life. Similar to a ticking time bomb buried beside her. This is an issue that constantly presented Huang Yuli with a headache, but she was helpless to solve this. This was also the reason why she so urgently wished to cultivate to the 6th layer. Once she possessed a decent amount of strength, then would she be able to seek out the appropriate heavenly items to recover her soul. Yet out of all expectations, there was such a large Spirit Saint Spring within the Sky Phoenix ring. Although the spring's nourishing effects could not be defined as quick, but with such a large amount available, if she continued to drink on a daily basis for an extended period of time, there would definitely be an immense improvement. There is now hope to counter her biggest worry. including her current heaven-defying physique. Reaching the 9th layer is without question. Kneeling on the ground as she leaned over the spring, Huang Li drank several mouthfuls. The refreshing feeling penetrated the very depths of her soul, unknowingly caused a smile to blossom on her face. It was at that moment, an arrogant voice entered her ears. "Wow, female devil, you have such special hobbies. You actually like to drink my bath water." Turning her head around, the little phoenix had unknowingly awoken from his slumber. His 2 white and tender feet were splashing around in the spring with a cocky expression plastered on his face. Looking at his tiny feet, seeing his pouting face, her lips hardened. In the next moment, a world-shaking cry echoed through the garden. "Save me, the female devil is abusing. Domestic violence, The sound of a door rang, as Huang Li threw aside the thoroughly reformed little phoenix and exited the space. Once she left the room, she was greeted with the face of a very worried Cai Wei standing guard. Third young miss, frowning, Huang Li asked, "Did I not say I have urgent business and needed to enter seclusion for a while? No matter who it is, they are not to disturb me." Due to her displeased mood, her gaze hazy and unknowingly carried some pressure. But Cai Wei couldn't help but cower. For some unknown reason, her family's 3rd young miss seemed to be more domineering than usual. A simple and casual glance caused cold sweat to appear on her back. It was more frightening than the 2nd young miss. Did she make a mistake? What Cai Wei did not know was Huang Li is no longer a cultivational wastrel. She had become a Qi Profound Realm 9th level cultivator and only a step away from the defensive Profound Realm. You can also listen on. Although Cai Wei's talents weren't bad, she had yet to fully link all her meridians and be considered a cultivator. In her perspective, Huang Li could already be considered a peak-level expert. Head lowered, Cai Wei carefully chose her words. "3rd young miss, this servant did not intentionally wish to disturb you. But someone from the royal palace has arrived." "The palace?" Huang Li was surprised. Information of her stealing from the royal treasury couldn't have leaked out. That's not right. If news were leaked out, the golden-scaled guards would have already stationed themselves along the perimeter of the back courtyard. Why would they be this amicable and send a maid to escort her out? Cai Wei replied in a hushed voice, "From what I hear, he is Eunuch Li from the Empress Dowager's side." That so?" Huang Li raised her eyebrow in question. "Then I will go meet him." "What? You say that the Empress Dowager is hosting a peach blossom banquet 3 days later in the royal palace, inviting all of large family ladies in the capital?" Not expecting to hear such news, Huang Li asked this confirmation in surprise. Eunuch Li nodded his head. "That's right. This year's peach blossoms are blooming early and coincidentally there is a peach blossom grove within the palace. The view is very beautiful. Her Empress Dowager really adores it and she can imagine how much young girls like flowers, so she is inviting the young ladies for a viewing. For the young ladies entering the Empress Dowager's palace, great fortune has been bestowed upon them. Congratulations, 3rd young Miss Bai. So it was like this. May I ask how many esteemed young ladies have received this invitation? This privilege has only been given to the young ladies with the appropriate high statuses, all daughters of the first wife. For example, your elder cousin 2nd young Miss Bai, official Ding Jin's eldest daughter and 4th daughter, Jing Jun Manners. Curving her lips slightly, Huang Li looked at Eunuch Li with a face of smiles, while other intentions flashed through her eyes. In the previous years, the Empress Dowager often loved to host such gatherings in the palace. But in these recent years with her old age and declining health, she needed to rest within the palace. Rarely she showed her face. This peach blossom banquet was neither for play or for gathering. Under the guise of a banquet, the Empress Dowager had invited all of the most noble and unmarried young ladies of the capital. If there were no hidden intentions in such an event, it would be very strange. She presumed this is because of the lose of face between the Crown Prince and Bai Ruo Qi previously. This banquet couldn't be a banquet to choose His Highness the Crown Prince's imperial concubine. As Huang Li was pondering this, Eunuch Li was also secretly observing her. He was a favored person of the Empress Dowager. No matter which family he visited in the capital, he would be given distinguished treatment. Contrary to his expectations, at Huang Yu Li's, he had been kept waiting for half a day. This caused Eunuch Li to feel quite displeased. But when he met with Huang Yu Li, he was given quite a shock. They all said that the Bai family's third young miss was thin and ugly with a timid personality. Not to mention she possessed a waste physique. Such a person naturally could not match His Highness the Crown Prince. If it weren't her father, Bai Liu Feng's status as the #1 expert of South Yu, as well as her previous verbal agreement of engagement with the Crown Prince, then she not possess any qualifications to attend this banquet. Because she could not even pass the most preliminary of tests. She was out of the Empress Dowager's scope from the start. But when he met her today, Eunuch Li really doubted his eyes. The young girl standing before him had bright eyes and pearly teeth, arched eyebrows, a jade nose and a beautiful face. Although her body is a bit underdeveloped, it was not strange for her age. And from his observations, she carried herself and a special kind of light and graceful manner. In addition to this, she held an arrogant and cold demeanor unique to those of high standings. This demeanor would unconditionally make others lower their heads in her presence. You can also listen on. Even Eunuch Li, the sly old fox who had many years of palace experience, reigned in his arrogant manner in her presence. He became many times more respectful. Worthy to be called by Liu Feng's daughter, looks like he must go back to Her Highness the Empress Dowager and inform her that third young Miss Bai is very different from the rumors. Even so, she cannot become the Crown Prince's imperial concubine. No matter how good her temperament is, she was a cultivational wastrel. As a dignified 5th-grade talent, how could His Highness wed a wastrel? Although Huang Yu Li knew what he was thinking, she did not mind. Thank you, Eunuch Li, I will most definitely attend the banquet. Sending Eunuch Li away, a trace of a sinister smile appeared on Huang Yu Li's face. She had immediately shut herself the day after she looted the royal treasury, so she remained oblivious to the night's final result. Just how big of a ruckus did it stir? As for the debt the Crown Prince owned 1,000 Treasure Pavilion, it was unclear whether or not he had cleared his debt. Yet he was already choosing his wife. For the position of imperial concubine, Huang Yu Li held no interest, but she felt it necessary to watch the upcoming and lively show. Bai Ruo Qi wished to become the Crown Prince's imperial concubine, not even hesitating to kill her own cousin. She will not allow for this mother and daughter pair to achieve their goals. Wu Wei Manor Eunuch Li also visited the manor to convey the Empress Dowager's intentions, inviting Bai Ruo Qi to participate in her peach blossom banquet. When Wu Wei Manor heard the news, they felt a bit uneasy. If it were 10 days earlier, they would be jumping ecstatically from the news of choosing the Crown Prince's imperial concubine. Then in the near future, it will be Wu Wei Manor ruling the country. However, since the day of 1,000 Treasure Pavilions auction, the Crown Prince did not initiate any form of contact with Bai Ruo Qi. Bai Ruo Qi remained very worried about the Crown Prince. Suffering for days, before finally deciding to inform Bai Liu Jing of the events that conspired during the auction. When Bai Liu Jing heard the news he madly cursed at her, but after his anger passed, the dragon of a man the Crown Prince could not be missed. He must help his daughter to amend for her wrongs. The position of imperial concubine, he cannot allow it to fall into the hands of another family. As a result, Bai Liu Jing sold off many properties Bai Liu Feng left behind. After much difficulty, he managed to scrape up 1 million silver and deliver it to the royal palace as an apology to the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince was short of money, although Wu Wei's government prowess was not little, unless necessary, he did not wish to offend him. Going down a few steps and accepting it, it could be considered a reconciliation between the two parties. But when Bai Ruo Qi went to seek an audience, the Crown Prince refused to meet her. Bai Ruo Qi couldn't quite make out the situation. Could it be the Crown Prince's loathes her and no longer considering to take her as his princess? As anxious as she was the only 4th-grade talent young lady of South Yu. This advantage placed her far above the rest. Bai Ruo Qi believed once the Crown Prince calmed down, he will understand that only a genius-proud woman like herself will be able to match him. When that time comes, she will show a more gentle and obedient side of herself. The Crown Prince will change his mind. Though her plans may be good, but these all require time. What Bai Ruo Qi did not expect was the Empress Dowagers to suddenly hold a peach blossom banquet. Currently, the Crown Prince will still remember the auction. This time choosing of his imperial concubine will be very unfavorable for her. The Manor Madam's expression was also very bad. What to do Qia, yesterday when you went to visit, did the Crown Prince continue to refuse to meet you? Current schedule, 6 regular happy doses a week. You can also listen on. Ashamed, Bai Ruo Qi bowed her head. Yes, but His Royal Highness's attitude has become much better. Yesterday he asked the housekeeper to get me some tea before inviting me back. His heart must have softened. As long as you give me half a month's time. We don't have half a month's time. The Manor Madam was gloomy-faced. Oh, that cheap person Bai Ruo Li really is an unlucky star. She was the one to implicate you. Speaking through clenched teeth. We can't allow her to trick us with that weak appearance, as it is false. That day when she was in the presence of His Highness gaze towards her was very different. Recalling that time and the Crown Prince's moving eyes, Bai Ruo Qi's heart burst into flames. Just by that little slut, she dared to attract the Crown Prince's gaze. Moreover, on that day you also seduced that mysterious and powerful expert. Why is this? She is just a waste. Rubbish. The Manor Madam coldly snorted out. I said that little slut is a scourge. But you do not need to waste your energy worrying about her, for she is just a wastrel. There is no possibility of her becoming the Crown Prince's imperial concubine. Even if could seduce the prince, the most she will become is a minor concubine. But I cannot resign myself to see that little slut. Enough. The Manor Madam interrupted her words. Dealing with Bai Ruo Li is very easy. While your current competitor is the Dingwa government's third young Miss Liu Yiyi. Liu Yiyi? She is only a third-grade talent. How can she compete with me? Bai Ruo Qi pridefully proclaimed. You do not know, but the Dingwa household has recently set up relation with a third-tier alchemist. With a large number of pills to assist her, in the last few days she has already been promoted to 7th level of the Qi Profound Realm. The same as you. What? How could that be? Bai Ruo Qi was surprised. How can this not be? Originally your talent was higher. Even if your cultivations are the same, His Royal Highness will certainly choose you. But now, His Royal Highness Prince has lost hope in you, and may choose Liu Yiyi instead. After all, the Dingwa household can employ the assistance of a third-tier alchemist. A clear symbol of strength. Bai Ruo Qi began to panic. What to do? I have tried every means to approach the Crown Prince, but he is not willing to see me. I will go in the afternoon. At this time, the door was pushed open and in came Wu Wei Manners by Liu Jing with big strides. He looked steely at his most beloved second daughter. You know to panic now? I really did not expect for usually smart you, to not even know how to win a man over. And also being played by that waste, Bai Ruo Li. Previously, everyone proclaimed you and the crown to be a golden pair, a match made in heaven. So if you lose this position of imperial concubine, the Manor's face will going flying as well. Seeing her daughter was scolded to the point where she could not lift her head, the Manor Madam quickly interjected her husband. Manor Lord, Qia knows she is wrong. Now scolding her will not do anything, so let us think about a way to win back the Crown Prince's heart. Snorting out, Bai Liu Jing withdrew a porcelain bottle from within his sleeves and threw it to Bai Ruo Qi. This is a bottle of spirit-clearing pills. That year, your uncle only left one behind. Originally I intended to keep it for my own use, but I will give it to you. You must, within these 3 days to break through to the 8th or 9th level. As long as your strength is greater than Liu Yiyi's, the Crown Prince is a wise man, he will naturally know what to choose. You can also listen on. Taking a look inside the porcelain bottle, Bai Ruo Qi found one spirit cleansing pill lying inside. The spirit cleansing pill is a 3rd level lower grade pill worth many times more than the spirit cleansing pill that Thousand Treasure Pavilion had auctioned. The spirit raising pill is only useful for practitioners at the Qi Profound Realm, while the spirit cleansing pill can help those at the defensive profound realm to advance in level. Many times more effective for those at the Qi profound realm. This sort of pill was impossible for Bai Liu Jing to obtain. But the year Bai Liu Feng left, he left such a pill. After his disappearance, Bai Liu Jing went to snatch it from Bai Ruo Li's grasp. Bai Liu Jing had planned to take it for himself. He did not think that this disappointing daughter of his not only failed to obtain that bottle of spirit-raising pills but also offended his Royal Highness. Seeing the position as the country's ruler fly away, he must weigh the pros and cons. Only then did he reluctantly to take it out for Bai Ruo Qi. Seeing the pressure similar to giving away his, my, precious, Bai Ruo Qi suddenly felt very ashamed. Firmly clasping the bottle, her eyes flashed with a firm look. Daddy, rest assured. With this spirit-clearing pill, your daughter will break through to the 9th level of the Qi profound realm within 3 days, and if I can go into closed-door cultivation for a further 3 months, breaking through to the defensive profound realm is not unfeasible. At the Peach Blossom Banquet, this daughter will definitely show the Crown Prince who is truly befitting of becoming his imperial concubine. I hope that is the case. You must live up to these expectations, do not make any mistakes. Although his tone was heavy and face serious, his heart was already set to marry his daughter to the Crown Prince. After all, a 15-year-old 9th-level Qi profound practitioner in the South Yu is a rarely seen genius every 100 years. His Highness the Crown Prince is only SOSO. Not matter how powerful the Dingwa government household's daughter is, she still cannot be discussed on equal levels at Bai Ruo Qi. After Bai Liu Jing walked away, Bai Ruo Qi clutched the bottle with a determined gaze. Seeing this, the Manor madam asked her, "What is it? Why have you not started cultivating?" Biting her lip, Bai Ruo Qi responded, "Mother, even if I can suppress Liu Yi, wouldn't that little slut Bai Ruo Li still be here?" That day in Thousand Treasure Pavilion, she deliberately seduced the Crown Prince. And if brings out the issue of her previous word agreement of engagement with the Crown Prince, what should be do? And if the Emperor pities her and really weds her to His Highness the Crown Prince, she did not know why, but her intuition has been told her that her biggest obstacle will not be Liu Yi, but her seemingly fragile waist of a cousin. That little slut obviously should be a bullied and idiotic waste. But why, every time she laid her hands on her, she always ended up as the loser? She but a wastrel, the Empress Dowager will not be so confused. The Manor madam could not help shake her head when she saw Bai Ruo Qi's clenched teeth. A wastrel can make you this angry? Mother has told you it is very easy to deal with her. You only need to do this on the day of the Peach Blossom Banquet. The more the Manor madam spoke, the softer her voice became. To the point where the last few words were barely heard by Bai Ruo Qi. The more she listened, the brighter her eyes became. Mother, you really have your ways. Well, since that little slut dared to take my cultivation pills and seduce His Royal Highness, she must be defeated this time. To become the laughingstock of the entire South Yu country. Soon the day of the Peach Blossom Festival arrived. That day, the weather was fine. From the early morning, Huang Yu Li actually took the time to choose her clothes. The palace had sent a carriage to pick her up. Taking Cai Wei along with her, she prepared to entire the carriage. But soon, she heard an arrogant snigger from behind her. You can also listen on. I was wondering who it was. It was Bai Ruo Li. Isn't the invitation for the Peach Blossom Banquet only for young ladies with outstanding talents? Why has Bai Ruo Li also received an invitation from the palace? What you don't know is, Bai Ruo Li is someone His Royal Highness previously held an engagement with? What? How is this possible? What does Royal Highness Prince see in this waist? Do make your story a bit more plausible. I am not lying to you. After all, Bai Ruo Li has a powerful dad. When Marquis Bai was still here, she experienced everything differently. Unfortunately, waste will be waste in the end. With her backing gone, she has lost everything and fell to such a point. If what you say it true, then His Royal Highness is too pitiful. Almost forced to marry this waste. Inside the carriage, a variety of cynical voices sounded. They were all aimed at the target, third young Miss Bai. Huang Yu Li sat quietly. Sitting in the carriage were all young ladies from various powers. They were all dressed up gorgeously, with elegant and beautiful smiles hanging from their faces. But as it happens, the words that came from their mouths were that unscrupulous and harsh sounding. One can imagine, with the original weak and timid character of Bai Ruo Li, how she was bullied. With a shallow smile and a particularly gentle, Huang Yu Li said, "Sisters, long time no see." All discussion ceased. Everyone stared at Huang Yu Li. Just a moment ago, no one looked in her direction until the moment she spoke. As their eyes fell on her, they found that she was different from everyone's impression, completely different. Before, Bai Ruo Li looked ordinary beyond belief, with a constantly lowered head, not daring to make a sound. Naturally, no one paid attention to her. But in the girl in front of them has stunning looks. Facial features exquisitely small, white like jade skin, a clear little beauty. Moreover, her temperament was outstanding. Her gestures elegant and exquisite. Bearing greater than all those present. You are Bai Ruo Li? Not possible. How could this be? But she looks a bit like Bai Ruo Li. I have grown up with her, I cannot mistake her. A hand touching the smooth and tender face, a bright smile lit up Huang Yu Li's face. That day after the herb bath, her body was rid of all impurities, exiting through her meridians. Not only did she become peak-level practitioner of the Qi profound realm, even her face had changed. This change is actually very subtle, nothing more than tender skin and facial features becoming more refined. From a glance, she was still the same person, but from other perspectives, she became a superior beauty. In retrospect, with Bai Liu Feng being an attractive man, adding on her mother's charm and alluring beauty, it was inconceivable for the daughter of those two to look so ordinary. It seems that the flame spirit physique not only clogged up her meridian, unable to cultivate, but also affected her appearance. Until that day of her first transformation, unlocking her flame spirit physique, will she be able to slowly reveal her true looks. Everyone's stunned and shocked eyes fell on her, but Huang Yu Li kept her calm. In her past life, she was the #1 beauty of the Tianling continent. So she had long grown accustomed to accepting the hateful gazes of other women. She quietly glanced around. Laughing out, she said, "I did not expect you to miss me so much." Just then, the carriage was so noisy, I thought it was a group of lowly women were cursing on the streets. I did not expect that everyone was greeting me. You can also listen on. When everyone heard this, they were surprised. They did not think there would be a day where the always ridiculed third young Miss Bai dared to speak to them like this today. Moreover, with such toxicity, dared to call their group of jade daughters lowly women, also saying they were swearing on the streets. Someone who could not endure, angrily refuted back, "Bai Ruo Li, speak more politely. Do you really think that possessing a conferred title makes you so much better? Waste is waste, you have to recognize this identity. I think you are looking for a beating." Turning her head, Huang Yu Li saw it was Jing Jun Manor's Wei Ling Shuang who had spoke. Wei Ling Shuang is a close friend of Bai Ruo Qi's, frequently bullying Bai Ruo Li. She raised her eyebrows, but before she could speak, she heard the voice of Bai Ruo Qi from behind her. "Lei Shuang, don't speak like that. No matter what, we are young ladies from upright families. Different from Wastrels. After all, she grew up with no proper education from her father or mother. Not speaking right is normal. Ladies, we are all high-class ladies, so please do not care about her." Although Bai Ruo Qi was speaking in a natural and unrestrained manner, an expression of helplessness was plastered over her face. Seemingly like a good sister trying to keep her sister from trouble. Huang Yu Li looked at her with great interest. Today, Bai Ruo Qi was dressed very beautifully. Even in this group of dolled-up young ladies, she particularly stood out. A few days ago, the appearance of Bai Ruo Qi at Thousand Treasure Pavilion was still vivid in one's mind. But today, she was the complete opposite of her original awkward appearance. She looks like an immortal beauty standing on ice. A look full of self-confidence and haughtiness, seemingly like the position of imperial concubine is already hers. Is it possible to say that if the prince is in harmony with the prince? Pondering, Huang Yu Li replied with a face full of smiles, What sister is right? I really cannot talk properly, because I will only talk with people and not with mutts. So if I offend you, please do not take it to heart. Wei Ling Shuang's frosty face turned green. Who are you saying is a mutt? A look of innocence, Huang Yu Li asked. I did not say anything. Are you planning to take this self-appointed title? Prepared for fight, Wei Ling Shuang was caught off guard with such a response. This left her at a loss. If she really beat up Bai Ruo Li, wouldn't she be admitting she was a mutt? In her hesitation, the carriage suddenly stopped. Outside the carriage, Eunuch Li's voice cried out, "Fellow young ladies, we have at the entrance of the palace. Please alight the carriage and follow me into the palace." Not daring to make trouble at the entrance of the palace, Wei Ling Shuang could only bitterly glare at Huang Yu Li and proceed to exit the carriage. Following the crowd, Huang Yu Li entered the palace. South Yu's royal palace was decorated very luxuriously, not inferior to some large sects. This is due to it being located right next to Dark Moon Forest. By the trading of demonic cores, South Yu's finance were quite ample. Huang Yu Li's last to the royal palace had been late at night, with nothing to see. So now that she could finally visit during the day, she looked around with great interest. Almost as if she is visiting her own garden. Those arrogant daughters of various esteemed household, all trembled with bowed heads, as soon as they entered the palace. In this way, it caused Huang Yu Li to stand out among the group. Behind them, Eunuch Li naturally saw her glances. To be so comfortable in this grand and majestic palace is such a rare sight indeed. /N You can also listen on. At this moment, Eunuch Li could see the image of the Wu Wei manners by Liu Feng on Huang Yu Li's body. This group of young ladies were brought to the depths of the imperial garden and towards the peach blossom orchard. Lovely spring sunshine shone into the palace, accentuating the beauty of the peach blossoms. Glowing with light, the flowers dyed the orchard in a magnificent rouge-like color. Bringing the group to their destination, Eunuch Li Gonggong smiled and said, "I ask fellow esteemed miss to first wait in this blossom orchard. If you are tired, you may go to the side pavilion to rest. At noon, Her Highness the Empress Dowager will begin the banquet and entertain everyone." Finishing his words, he then proceeded to leave and left this group of aristocratic daughters in this peach blossom orchard. In the pavilion at the edge of orchard were an array of tea and desserts with palace maid and eunuchs waiting on the side. However, the masters of these palaces did not appear. Nevertheless, of these aristocratic daughters, no one dared to slack off. Each one carefully checked their own makeup and clothing and gracefully walked into the peach blossom orchard. Every move was deliberately executed to highlight their own beauty and bearing. They were all very clear, although they could not see anyone, but the masters of these palaces are certainly observing them in secret. Now was the best time for them to show off. They must let the princes see their most beautiful side, potentially making them fall in love at first sight. Huang Yu Li did not possess as much worries. Immediately, she went to find the most beautiful peach blossom tree and sat beneath it. Hands tucked under her chin, she tilted her head and quietly watched the beauty in front of her. A burst of warm air blew past, billowing the branches of the entire orchard and scattering quite a few petals. With this disturbance, the falling flowers created an image from a painting. Huang Yu Li became stunned. She seems to, or as if. At the other end of the peach blossom orchard, she saw the owner of Thousand Treasure Pavilion. Moreover, he did not wear his mask. Although it was only a silhouette, but that handsome and perfect-featured face and those clearly defining jawlines could not be mistaken. But he does not seem to emit his usually domineering aura. Instead, he appeared like an ordinary aristocratic young master with a splendid temperament, but too much delicateness. He wore noble violet robe, with golden embroidery exclusive to the royal family. On his head was a tall hat and a belt at his waist. Standing in the midst of the peach blossoms and petal storm, he appeared to be ethereal. The man slowly shook his head as if he was looking here and there and attracted the attentions of the whispers of the girls around him. But he just lightly changed his line of sight. Without changing his pace, he left. In an instant, he disappeared into the domineering palace. Watching from a distance, Huang Yu Li could not believe her own eyes. She almost thought she saw wrongly. This man, how could he appear here, and, like this? This made others too unaccustomed. But very quickly, she regained herself. Last time when she was escaping the pursuit of the royal tutor, she had fled into the palace, and entangled herself with this man. Then, the golden-scaled guards who were ordered to capture her called him His Highness. At that time, she saw the man's face and became too shocked. Not in the right state of mind, she could bother herself to get to the bottom of this matter. But afterwards she guessed his identity. Obviously, he is a member of the royal family. And judging from his age, it is very likely for him to be a prince. Although the current reigning emperor has many successors. For those over 15 years old, there are only 6 or 7. But Bai Ruo Li never had the opportunity to enter the royal palace, so she simply could not differentiate these princes. You can also listen on. More importantly, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince has been known as the #1 genius of the South Yu. The reason why he could sit so stably on this position is not only because he is the eldest son of the Empress, but also because his strength overwhelms all his brothers. However, the cultivation of the Lord Owner is obviously higher than the Crown Prince by many times. If he is a prince, even if there were 100 Crown Princes, they would not be able to defeat him. If one thought like that, he could actually be an ordinary prince or something similar. Thinking over the various cause and effects, Huang Yuli still failed to comprehend the various intricacies hidden within. Since she could not figure it out, she gave up. Since the owner of Thousand Treasure Pavilion hid his own identity, there is certainly a reason. She did not have to butt herself into someone's private matters. Besides, the day when the two separated, they had left on such awkward terms. There is a possibility that the man no longer wished to hold any other relations with her in the future. After all, for someone with such a powerful and overbearing character, very rarely would they suffer such setbacks. It is hard to imagine the feeling of being severely refused by a woman. She could sense the man's sincere intentions towards her. Since she so mercilessly refused him, not only did she hurt him, she also hurt his self-esteem. But it was exactly because of her sincere intentions did Huang Yuli resort to such resolute actions to remove him from her world. She already has Mu Cheng Ying in her heart. She could not have a foot in both boats, stringing others with illusory hope. She decided to stop the man's feelings before they had the chance to develop too much. This would be good for both of them. However, when thought of that day when she fled from the Clear Flower Palace and the cold and gloomy face of the Lord Owners, a faint sour feeling arose in her heart. He is not bad, but such a pity. Leaning against the peach blossom tree, Huang Yuli's mind drifted off far, far away. At this time, the argumental voice of some nearby aristocratic daughters traveled to her ears. You see. Just then, that passing man looked really handsome and excellent. I almost became a fool. Never have I seen such a handsome man. Do not know what his identity is. Is he the son of a minister? He is not some minister's son, but His Royal Highness, a prince. He is prince. But my aunt is the emperor's favorite senior concubine. Every year, of the various times when I entered the royal palace, I have never seen him. Growing with such an appearance, I will never forget such a face. The doting of your aunt is news from the past few years, no? No wonder you do not know. This, he is the legendary second prince, His Royal Highness, Prince Yu. What? He is His Royal Highness, Prince Yu? No wonder he looks so handsome. They all said that His Royal Highness Prince Wu is matchless. Really well deserved of these claims are. When Huang Yuli heard their conversation, she frowned slightly. Prince Yu? Are they talking about Thousand Treasure Pavilion's owner? Is he really a prince? Phoenix Yu cannot help herself but secretly move a bit closer. Leaning a little, she erected her ears, to hear what they were saying more clearly. Those few young ladies continued to twitter non-stop. Wait, so what is with Royal Highness Prince Yu? Why do you all know him? Quite obviously, not everyone recognized Prince Yu. Very quickly someone spoke out to answer this question. You actually do not even know about Prince Yu. His Royal Highness Prince Yu is the son of the most favored Empress Ming Fei from 20 years ago. You can also listen on. Ah! He is the second prince born of Empress Ming? Didn't rumors say that the second prince is very weak in health, and possibly, already? Wait a moment, who is Empress Ming? The palace only has 4 empresses, so where did this Empress Ming come from? Another girl asked. General Nan's second daughter lowered her voice and whispered, "You do not even know this, ah?" During the reign of Empress Ming, there was simply no one in the entirety of the 6 palaces, and she received all of the emperor's pampering. He almost never went to the imperial empress place. Ah, is that so? She asked again. Since Empress Ming was so adored, currently, how come there are no mentions of her name? This was royal secret, but with so many years in the passing, it is a public secret now. Looking around and saw they had not attracted any unwanted attention, second young Miss Qi began to inform her bosom friends. From what I heard, around 2 decades ago, the imperial empress and empress fell pregnant at almost the same time. If the emperor's favored Empress Ming were to rob the position of the eldest son, it will naturally have an impact on her status of imperial empress. As a result, the 2 empresses used all their strength to give birth to the eldest son. Someone interrupted at this moment. Quite obviously it is Her Majesty, the imperial empress who won. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince is the elder, while Prince Yu Wang is only the second prince. Yes, that is correct. It's reported, in year of their birth, Empress Ming was the first to enter labor, but it ran into a difficult labor. After 3 days and nights, she had yet to give birth to His Royal Highness Prince Yu. As a result, the imperial empress who began later, gave birth to the crown prince. Barely holding on to her life, Empress Ming still managed to leave behind His Highness Prince Yu. So His Royal Highness, Prince Yu is only a day younger than the crown prince. What a pity. Yes, for His Royal Highness Prince Yu to be born without a mother is so pitiful. Unexpectedly, with such a handsome face, His Royal Highness Prince Yu possessed such a devastating past. Second young Miss Qi glanced at them. Seems you are quite interested towards His Highness Prince Yu, eh? An aristocratic daughter immediately laughed. I heard that today is for the selection of imperial concubines, not only limited to the crown prince. The Empress Dowager also holds the intention to select some for several other princes. The position of Crown Prince's imperial concubine is unattainable for the majority, but His Royal Highness Prince Yu is still quite good. Although he is the second prince, he still possesses a prince's title. You will immediately become a princess once married. Someone echoed, yes, His Royal Highness Prince Yu looks so handsome, just by walking by, his elegant grace, is simply donned him the title of world's most beautiful man. For the one who could marry him, will have smoke rising from their graves. Yes, yes. His Royal Highness Prince Yu is just too handsome. Just by looks alone, who can defeat His Royal Highness Prince Yu? Hiding behind the peach tree, Huang Yu Li listened to those girls issuing their floral praises. Her lips pursed, she was in a very bad mood. Unexpectedly, this man was quite capable at inciting the hornet's nest. His Royal Highness Prince Yu, right? Out of this world handsome, right? By only slightly exposing his face briefly, he could captivate so many hearts on sight. Then why did he insist on wearing a mask in front of her, acting in such a cool manner? While in front of these girls, he did not cover it. Could it be, he enjoyed the feeling of being surrounded by women? Current schedule, 6 regular happy doses a week. You can also listen on. The more she thought, the unhappier Huang Yu Li became. Nonetheless, it was not due to her liking the man. It was just. Thinking over it, she made a fist inside her heart. That's right, her displeasure originates from the man's fakeness. He was clearly a powerful individual, with a dominating and unrelenting disposition. His gaze towards her was filled with an indescribable sense of pressure. Yet his current persona in front of these various golden-spooned young ladies was an elegant and refined prince. What was he planning? Could it be he truly planned to select his imperial concubine during this peach blossom banquet? As she was considering this possibility, second young Miss Qi's voice drifted from behind her. You guys, don't just look at the face. I will tell you the truth, His Highness Prince Yu is not a good partner. Really? Why is that? Could it be he holds no power in court due to the passing of his royal mother? Or could it be, due to the extreme pampering of his Empress mother, Her Majesty the Imperial Empress cannot stand him? Second young Miss Qi shook her head. These are all incorrect. The truth is, due to Empress Ming's extreme exertion of her body during birth, he was born with a sickly constitution and nearly lost his life. After receiving the treatment of various esteemed doctors in the country, they all deemed he would not be able to live past 6 years. Ah! How could this be? But he currently, not only did he outlive 6 years, he should be coming of age soon, right? Yes. Afterwards, a medical expert from a large sect passed by and said he could cure the second prince. However, he requested that he take the second prince with him to the mountains to recuperate. Naturally, not many would know of His Highness Prince Yu, because he did not live in the royal palace. No wonder, turns out it was like this. Expression turning grave, second young Miss Qi continued to speak. Not only is His Highness not a cultivator, his health is many times weaker than normal. His Highness Prince Yu cannot cultivate, so disappointing. That's right, he's not even a practitioner. Even if he is a prince, even with a pretty face, what use is that? Hi, for the one becoming Prince Yu's imperial concubine, it would misfortune from 8 generations. Don't dream of anything big in her entire life. What will one do if they married a man who could not cultivate? In other words, the third prince is a 4th-grade talent, the 4th prince and 5th princes are 3rd-grade talents, all are more powerful than His Highness Prince Yu. I must be careful and not attract Prince Yu's gaze. The Tianling continent had always followed the law of the jungle. Peak-leveled experts held exceptional statuses, their words worth more than gold. And they were the dream spouses of all young girls. On the contrary, wastrels who could not cultivate, no matter how high their statuses were or how distinguished their births were, they would all be looked down upon. That year, as the daughter of Bai Liu Feng, a golden-spooned daughter of Wu Wei Manor, Bai Ruo Li was treated worse than a servant. Anyone could use a whip to strike, and she was powerless to retaliate. This was all due to her wastrel identity. Although these golden-spooned young ladies were moved by Prince Yu's immaculate appearance, once they heard he was unable to cultivate, their attitudes went through a 180-degree flip. Slight tones of despise could be heard in their speech. A wastrel prince will stay the same throughout his entire life. No matter how beautiful he was, he could not use his face to feed himself. They were all young ladies who were at least 2nd-grade talents. How could they possibly marry that kind of person? As all the golden-spooned young ladies lost interest in His Highness Prince Yu, they all began to inquire about the others princes from second young Miss Qi. You can also listen on. As for the contents of the next topic, Huang Yu Li no longer held any interest. Her attention continued to linger on the topic regarding the second prince. Never in her wildest dreams did she expect such a powerful and arrogant man, the owner of Thousand Treasure Pavilion, to be the second prince of South Yu. Not to mention such an astounding identity. It was just too pitiful. It was hard for her to imagine that such an amazing man would be unable to live past 6 years. She felt quite miffed inside, but could not identify where this feeling arose from. An image of the man appeared in her mind, as a weak-bodied boy who lost his mother at a young age, clutching his quilt alone in the large and icy harem palace. Growing up without anyone's love or attention. The boy's image, when compared with the domineering image of the pitilessly handsome man within her memories, gradually melded together. Just as this occurred, she once again heard the gossiping of those young ladies. Hearing their tones of despise towards Prince Yu, she heard them discussing how useless he was and how much misfortune he would bring to the family he will wed. Huang Yu Li nearly leapt out from anger. Even those previous feelings of disgust disappeared in that instant. This group of little girls, what nonsense were they discussing? If that Prince Yu was a piece of trash, then there are no geniuses in the entire Tianling continent. Nonetheless, she would not admit this truth out loud. Inwardly, she let out a sigh. With how proud that man was, he would not go and bicker with a bunch of girls. Since he chose to reveal himself today to these various golden-spooned born young ladies, in this peach blossom banquet for the selection of imperial concubines, he clearly lost all chance. As Huang Yu Li allowed her imagination to roam free, someone called her from behind. "Third sister, so you were hiding here. making me use such a long time to find you." Slowly turning her head to the origin of the sound, she was greeted with the exaggerated sight of Bai Ruo Qi's long and flowing red dress as she sauntered towards her. The way in which walked was extremely eye-catching. Step by step, each move seemed to be calculated meticulously. When matched with that cloud-like lower skirt, it created that illusion that she floating across the earth. Graceful and feminine, each step seemed to give birth to blossoming flowers. The various discussions of these young ladies thus ceased as they turned their gazes towards Bai Ruo Qi. Their eyes filled with envy and jealousy. Regardless of the talent, looks or family standing, Bai Ruo Qi stood at the peak. This caused these aristocratic and influential young ladies to only ever see her trail dust, never to reach her level. They could not compete with her at all. Dusting the dust off her butt, Huang Yuli stood up and greeted her with a slight smirk. "So it was second sister. Why are you looking for me?" As she smiled, Bai Ruo Qi appeared many times gentler. Then in a particularly dedicated voice, she said, "Third sister, second sister has especially come to apologize to you. Last time, the misunderstanding that occurred between us at Thousand Treasure Pavilion was due to my hastiness. This caused me to wrongly blame you. So I ask third sister to not hold a grudge." Glancing at her, Huang Yuli responded with hooked lips, "Uro? Second sister would actually come and apologize to a trash like me?" Within Huang Yuli's gaze were traces of clear contempt. This nearly caused Bai Ruo Qi to fail in her acting, wishing she go out and give her a slap. This damn girl is just a piece of garbage trash, right? She does not have the aid of that expert backing her today, yet she dared to continue her arrogant act. Looking for a beating. Taking in a deep breath, Bai Ruo Qi forcefully suppressed her rising anger. No, she can't be this impulsive today. A small lashing will affect larger plans. She will allow for this damn girl to prance around for a while longer. Later one, she make this slut die without a complete corpse. You can also listen on. Bai Ruo Qi quietly hooked the corners of her mouth as her eyes flashed a shady color. Tightly she clasped onto a small paper bag hidden within her sleeves. Inside the paper bag was a special powder given to her by Wu Wei Manor's madam last night. Take this medicine. Once dissolved in the wine, it will be colorless and tasteless. Just look for an opportunity for Bai Ruo Li to drink this. Nothing unexpected will occur. What if it's detected? How will that be possible? Your aunt had especially helped me obtain this from the imperial physician, Jiang Yizheng. When the time comes, he will make an appearance, guaranteeing the demise of this slut. No matter how guarded Bai Ruo Li is, even if she tested her wine, she will not find anything. This is not poison, it's merely medicine to aid in improved blood circulation. It's just a larger amount than normal. Yesterday night when Bai Ruo Qi heard the words of the Manor madam, she learnt that when compared to her mother, she was really lacking far behind in such aspects. To think that she believed herself to be quite smart already. Effortlessly, the Manor madam could pull out such a plan. Worthy of her many years of experience living within the manor. This time, it will not be so easy for this little slut to escape. With great difficulty, Bai Ruo Qi covered the triumph within her eyes and said happily, "Third sister, do not be so distant, for we are cousins. One brush cannot write two by characters. Sister, I am sincerely apologizing to you today. In addition, the last bottle of spirit-raising pills is also within your possession." With this act of second young Miss Bai's, she appeared even more pitiful. Unknowingly it caused others into thinking she was bullied too. Though the onlookers knew of the two sisters' dispute at Thousand Treasure Pavilion's auction, listening to her raise the issue of the spirit-raising pills, they couldn't help but feel sympathetic. No matter how one put it, in the bet between the two sisters, Bai Ruo Qi had lost quite thoroughly. Losing not only money but her cultivation pills as well. Now that she was taking the initiative to apologize, it showed how generous she was. While Huang Yuli, who was pretentiously striking such a pose, turned into the wicked party. Listening to the opinions of the onlookers' whispered discussions regarding the events of that day, Huang Yuli's mouth curved into a ridiculing amused smile. Second sister, when you speak like that, you speak like an outsider. That day we were both too impulsive. For an affair that has already passed, Naturally I am unwilling to bring it back up, Bai Ruo Qi chuckled inside. Sure enough, under the pressure of public opinion, this little slut did not dare act as arrogantly as that day. Hurriedly she said, "It is a good thing that you are willing to forgive me, third sister. In this case, let us drink this cup together and let bygones be bygones. Starting today, we will be close and intimate sisters." After that, she picked up the jug on the stone table and personally poured 2 glasses of wine. As she was doing this, she had previously secretly scraped the powder into her nails. Standing sideways, she blocked Huang Yuli's line of sight to cleverly sprinkle the powder into one of the cup's glasses. Considering herself to be the highest in standing among those present, she was certain that hiding her schemes would be an easy task. She was not worried about being seen. So on her face hung a brilliant smile. "Third sister, let us drink this cup of wine." What Bai Ruo Qi did not know was that her approach in the Huang Yuli's eyes was amusing as a little child playing house. Her underhanded actions of dropping the medicine inside was clearly seen. Huang Yuli. Bai Ruo Qi just wondered, what kind of medicine did she put inside? You can also listen on. Sweeping her eyes over Bai Ruo Qi's proud smile, Huang Yuli sneered inside. In the end, no matter what drug was used, the result will be the same. Just by those little schemes of Bai Ruo Qi's, did she really plan to fool her? She could not blame her for not biting the bait. Just as the Bai Ruo Qi snails dipped inside the cup, Huang Yuli unconsciously glanced towards her right. Suddenly showing a shocked look, she exclaimed, "Ah? This is His Royal Highness the Crown Prince." Hand flicking away, Bai Ruo Qi almost knocked over the cup on the table. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. Why would His Royal Highness come at such a time? If the Crown Prince is here, then she cannot give this little slut medicine in his presence. Otherwise, if the powerful Crown Prince saw through her tricks, her ladylike would be shattered. Bai Ruo Qi looked back in panic and became surprised. No one. In the peach blossom orchid, there were only petals billowing in the wind. What Royal Highness Crown Prince? Realized that she had been played, she turned around to angrily glare at Huang Yuli. You dare fool me? Huang Yuli on the other hand took advantage of her momentarily stupor to rearrange the positions of the 2 cups. At this point, she stared into her eyes with a face more innocent than a deer. Was wrong, I did not mean to do that. I just saw a silhouette which resembled His Royal Highness Prince a lot. Second sister, why are you this fierce? Did you not say that you wished to make up with me? Though Bai Ruo Qi's anger had burst out, after listening to this statement, she had to immediately rein in her anger. This nearly caused her to suffer internal injuries. Yes, her goal was to get this dead girl to drink the drug. She could not rip that face of hers, she must continue to deceive her. A little moments of disturbance will affect the greater plan. A forbearance. Bai Ruo Qi took a deep breath and lightly laughed. You made a mistake. When was I fierce? Second sister is sincere in reconciling with you. Come, third sister, let us down this cup of wine. As she said this, she personally picked up one of the cups and delivered it to Huang Yuli. With a faint smile, Huang Yuli took the cup. Since second sister has said so, if I continue to put on airs, it will be my fault. Even though, second sister, you often whip me, grab my things, while pouring dirty water on me outside, as we are cousins, I can only choose to forgive. Green was Bai Ruo Qi's face. If you don't care, why must you say something like this before so many people? The ice beauty Bai Ruo Qi would not only whip her own cousin, but also take her things. Whether it was true or false, to hear such gossip, many ears became alert. Whispering, they talkatively conversed amongst themselves. Bai Ruo Qi was dying to seal Huang Yuli's lips. Fortunately, this dead girl was moving the cup to her mouth. The moment the liquor touched her lips, Huang Yuli suddenly stopped moving, moved the cup away. This nearly caused Bai Ruo Qi to jump up from anxiety. Why do you not drink? Could it be, her schemes were seen through by this stinking girl? That was impossible. For a waste like her, how could she possibly see through her tactics? Seemingly oblivious to her anxious looks, Huang Yuli innocently said, Second sister, I suddenly remembered something. Did we not say that we would drink all of it? We forgot to touch cups. Oh, yes, cheers, cheers, relieved, Bai Ruo Qi dryly laughs. That's right, look at my memory. You can also listen on. As the two glasses met, it created a loud clinking sound. Slender fingers around the cup, Huang Li once again put it to her mouth. Staring at her movements, Bai Ruo Qi could not wait to see the wine pour down her throat. Silently in her heart, she chanted, "Drink faster, drink faster, drink faster." However, just as Huang Li was about to take the first sip, the cup stopped at her lips again. "Second sister, what do you want to do?" Bai Ruo Qi's breathing was hurried. Always at the last moment, playing her, Huang Li smiled profoundly. "Second sister, you also need to drink ah? How can I drink alone?" "Oh, well, I will drink, I will drink." Don't hold back any courtesies and quickly drink it. Hell-bent in coaxing Huang Yu to drink, Bai Ruo Qi did not even realize that her own wine cup contained the drugged liquor. In order to encourage Huang Yu, without hesitation, she gulped down the wine. Looking up after the wine was drunk, she stared at the Huang Li with a hungry gaze. Huang Li should hold no more doubts if she drank it first. Mostly likely if she did not drink soon, Bai Ruo Qi personally come up and force it down. This time, she finally lifted the cup and drank the wine inside. With her goal complete, Bai Ruo Qi finally released a long breath of relief. Her heart beating in satisfaction. Hey, this little slut, since she drank this cup of wine, today, there will be a good show to watch. Not only will she be unable to marry the crown prince, she would not be able to able for the rest of her life. This truly made her happy. Who allowed this little slut to provoke her head? She deserved it. As the two sisters finished reconciling, they did not leave. Instead, they joined second Miss Qi's group, chatting about various tidbits and gossip with them. Due to Bai Ruo Qi's high standing, she rarely associated with young ladies who did not match her status. So for her to be this amicable, laughing with them, truly made second Miss Qi flattered. Only Huang Li knew her sister was waiting to see her make a fool of herself. "I am afraid that is but of a dream of yours, Bai Ruo Qi. Today you are using a rock to smash your own feet." But in the end, even Huang Li could not figure out what tricks Bai Ruo Qi was playing. Under these watchful eyes, did she really intend to poison her? Or could it be a medicine of some kind? Quite some time passed by. Bai Ruo Qi's patience was wearing thin, dealing with these young ladies. She did not know why. Huang Li continued to sit there perfectly fine with no reaction. When the Manor madam gave her the powder, she informed her that the time it took for the medicine to show effect depends largely on the cultivation of the person. It will take a long time for a practitioner, but for the average person, there will be a response in the time it takes to brew tea. Half an hour has already passed. Even a practitioner at the 9th level of the Qi profound realm will have a reaction. Why did that trash show no symptoms? Powder couldn't have lost its effectiveness, right? Bai Ruo Qi slightly frowned, doubt sprouting in her heart. At this moment, she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her abdomen. Caught off guard, she couldn't help but cry out loudly. Sweat forming on her forehead, she curled whilst clutching her stomach. "Second sister, what is the matter?" "Hey, second Miss Bai, what happened? Are you sick?" I suddenly have a stomachache." Bai Ruo Qi gritted her teeth, not understanding what was happening. You can also listen on. Could it be food poisoning? However, from morning till now, she had only eaten a few snacks from the palace. Could it be the palace food that was unclean? At this moment, a loud exclamation could be heard. "Ah, blood, a lot of blood. My God, second young Miss Bai is bleeding. Bleeding quite a lot. This is horrible. Quickly go and fetch for the imperial doctor." The various young ladies screamed and panicked. Blankly Bai Ruo Qi lowered her head, only to see her lower body covered in a glaring pool of red blood. Realizing that she was not only bleeding, but in large amounts too. Her entire skirt was drenched in blood as the pungent taste of blood lingered in the air. Eyes turning black, she only felt the world turn white and fainted. Witnessing this scene, even Huang Li was shocked. She did not think, the result of Bai Ruo Qi's drug would be bleeding from the lower abdomen. To achieve this effect was very easy. From Huang Yuli's knowledge, there are several herbs that could easily obtain this effect, making a woman bleed excessively. If the dosage is large enough, it would be just like the menstrual period. This medicine is very vicious, because to women, this was very harming on the body. If one is pregnant, then they will certainly lose the child once they took this medicine. Even if they are not pregnant, they will still suffer heavy injuries. Worst case scenario, it may lead to infertility. Of course, this is for common people. Towards cultivators, the impact is much smaller. For it will be easy to recover from their cultivation, nursing back to full health. However, why did Bai Ruo Qi give her this medicine? Hearing the screams of the young girls, the female officers who were overlooking them came to investigate. Immediately they sent someone to fetch the court doctor. Bai Ruo Qi was carried to the side. This unexpected accident caused quite a stir. Thinking, Huang Li thoughtfully moved to the side. Hearing quite a few whisperings in the process. What has happened to second Miss Bai? Not even knowing it was her own period time? For it to even occur in the palace, such a joke. But fortunately it is not at the Empress Dowager's banquet, otherwise, she still dreams of becoming the imperial concubine? Period. I think it's not that simple. Why? Whose period would occur in such large amounts when it begins? Did you not see, the red stain on her skirt was such a big one, and she actually fainted, still to awaken. For a talented cultivator, how can she so delicate? What do you mean? Do you mean, what's inside, is unspeakable? Hey, I said nothing, everyone should be aware. All kinds of gloating tones spewed forth came. Huang Li's face revealed a trace of color. So it was like this. Bai Ruo Qi was aiming for such an outcome. Her powder was merely a blood-stimulating medicine. Once you drink the mix, not only will your lower body begin to bleed, but you will also faint on the spot. For an unmarried girl to suddenly start bleeding without cause, but also faint, it will be easy to think something was tarnishing their reputation. Since Bai Ruo Qi had spread the rumor of her eloping with a man in private a month earlier, the two situation will make a perfect combination. To anyone, they would guess that she had lost her virginity long ago and falling pregnant too. This kind of scandal is already quite deplorable during ordinary times. But now, it occurred in the Empress Dowager's Peach Blossom Banquet. You can also listen on. If she were to carry charges of a potential pregnancy whilst single, her reputation would really sweep the ground. Not only would she lose face for the Empress Dowager, God knows how angry she will become once she learns of the news. No matter how distinguished Bai Ruo Li's father was, she could no longer hold her head up in this life. One couldn't deny how intricate and interlocking Bai Ruo Qi's plot was this time. Not only did exploit the people, location, and time, the whole dug was very deep and complex. Really too nice. Huang Li could not help but give a round of applause. Unfortunately, although this pit was dug beautifully, the victim was Bai Ruo Qi herself. After a while, Bai Ruo Qi quietly moaned and awoke from her coma. Huang Li was the first to walk over. With a face full of anxiety, like a sincere sister, she asked about her dear sister's condition. Second sister, you are finally awake, are you okay? How did you faint? And where do you feel uncomfortable? If Bai Ruo Qi still felt dizzy, she immediately snapped awake at Huang Li's voice. Waves of memories suddenly flooded into her mind. Soon, she came to understand that she must have been the one who drank the drugged glass of wine. Not only did her lower body start bleeding, she also fainted. However, she remembered quite clearly to take the correct cup. What had gone wrong? This little slut was definitely culprit. Yet she still insisted to play the role of the good little sister. Teeth itching, Bai Ruo Qi stared fiercely at the girls in front of her, wishing she could beat her at that instant. However, she could not lash out at such a time, or the truth of the medicine will be exposed. The unfortunate one was herself, so she could only look at Huang Li's pretentiousness. She gritting her teeth, "I'm fine, third sister, thank you for your concern." Looking relieved, Huang Li said, "That's good. Just then when we saw second sister experiencing such an accident, perhaps, bleeding so much, we were afraid it will be life-threatening. It really scared me. How could Bai Qi did not understand what she truly meant? Moreover, the discussions around had also reached her ears. This result was what she expected. So naturally she knew how easy to misunderstand her symptoms are. She must be, in front of everyone, explain clearly. Otherwise her reputation will be destroyed. Thinking to this point, Bai Ruo Qi struggled to sit up. But the effects of that powder were too strong. Still feeling dizzy, her body could not respond. Huang Li held her hand out. Second sister, you need to lie down to rest. What are you doing? Bai Ruo Qi really wanted her to scram, along with that hypocritical smile. In her eyes, it was incomparably stifling. But just as fate may be, Huang Li was her blood-related cousin. In the presence of others, their relationship must appear amicable. So when she came to assist her, it was impossible to leave her like this. She must play out the role of a good younger sister. I want to see the court doctor. Bai Ruo Qi coughed out a sentence. Huang Li replied, do not worry, the female officers have to already called for a court doctor. After hearing this, Bai Ruo Qi was relieved. She had long colluded with the court doctor Liu of the imperial physicians. Originally, it was intended to trap Huang Li. Although she was surprised at the turn in events, she could, as long as court doctor Liu could come, he could help her cover this matter up. Court doctor Liu is one of the best doctors in the palace, no one will doubt his diagnosis. He just need to make up a diagnosis along the lines of an irregular menstrual occurrence to seal the mouths of these people. Afterwards, the affair will be easily dealt with. You can also listen on. Bai Ruo Qi eagerly awaited Dr. Liu's arrival, so she did not notice Huang Li's smile. Not long after, court Dr. Liu reached the peach blossom orchid. Bai Ruo Qi hurriedly said, hurry and ask Dr. Liu to come over. I want, Wu. Halfway through her sentence, she suddenly discovered she could not make a sound, and stared out in astonishment. Huang Li calmly recovered her hand, placed it on her chest, before laughing. Second sister, what's the matter? Seeing that you are sweating so much, allow me to wipe it for you. Does it not feel comfortable? Bai Ruo Qi glared at her murderously. To others, they only saw her good sister act of kindly wiping her sister's sweat. How would they know Huang Li had just sealed her meridians to make her mute? Due her poisoning, Bai Ruo Qi was left in a weak state. So with Huang Li's move, she could not undo the seal. Huang Yu sweetly smiled. Second sister, I understand you, I understand. You have no more strength left in you. Rest assured, with your younger sister here, I will not let you suffer. Bai Ruo Qi almost split her side. With her here, she was suffering misfortune from 8 lives. In the end, what did this damn girl want to do? Leading the female official, Huang Li whispered to her, Gugu Li, I am truly sorry. As you know, my elder sister, my second sister's affairs, is a woman's problems. And because she is very delicate woman, she is embarrassed for the court doctor to examine her. After all, Dr. Liu is a Manor. The female official was actually quite understanding, for the palace held quite a few princess, concubines who did not like the doctors see such problems. They just felt weird. She immediately replied, this is easy, let the doctor diagnose through a silk handkerchief. Dr. Liu is a superb doctor. He does not need to see the patient's face in order to make a diagnosis. Please rest assured young Miss Bai. Bai Ruo Qi did not know what Huang Li said. She waited for a moment but failed to see Dr. Liu. Instead, it was her cousin who placed a handkerchief on her face and another on her wrist. Sitting outside the bead curtain with a concentrated gaze, he held on the covered sleeve and carefully examined. Bai Ruo Qi immediately understood that it was a diagnosis through a sleeve. This is a common practice in the palace, not something surprising. However, she must let Dr. Liu see her face. Otherwise, Dr. Liu would certainly not expect was Bai Ruo Qi who was poisoned. He must have thought that the person this lying in bed, Wu Wei Manor's third young miss. As a result, Dr. Liu will certainly act in accordance with their prior plan, framing her with an accidental miscarriage. Think to hear, Bai Ruo Qi suddenly panicked. She tried very hard to get out of bed and desperately attempted to speak. However, she did not know why the drug's potency was so strong. No matter how she struggled, she could not climb up and could not unable to the mute seal on her. Huang Yuli sat by the bed, a look of worry as she held her down. You must lie down. Do not affect Dr. Liu's examination. Dr. Liu is an expert and a leading figure in South Yu. So he will definitely be able to find the cause. Find out what cause. If she allowed Dr. Liu to speak his diagnosis, what would she do? She could no longer conduct herself. Bai Ruo Qi was both angry and anxious, but how could not get rid of Huang Yuli? Left with no choice, she could only make noises to catch Dr. Liu's attention. You can also listen on. Outside the curtain, Dr. Liu sat upright. Of course he heard the whispers and the noises of shuffling, but he chose to ignore them. Because Dr. Liu has long ago colluded with Wu Wei Manor's madam, knew what he needed to do was a very wicked thing. Inside the curtain, naturally was third young Miss White, who was a virgin young girl, yet she was to be accused of being pregnant while unmarried. Of course many would jump at such news. As long as he pretended not to hear or see, only focusing on how he will deliver the appropriate diagnostic results, Wu Wei Manor Madam promised to give him a hefty reward. So easily it will enter into his hands. Gently stroking his beard, he felt so relaxed and carefree inside. He did not intend to feel any pulse, but only pretended to ponder for a moment with a dignified expression. Jiu Li, this girl, walking over, and Jiu lowered her voice. What's wrong with Dr. Liu? The girl's pulse. Dr. Liu hesitantly replied, this may also be due to anemia, or it could be diagnostic mistakes. However, the one inside the curtains is, in her heart, Jiu Li had long suspected the outcome, but when she heard him speak with a look of embarrassment, she immediately knew the truth. She is the Empress Dowager's personal maid who was sent to observe and supervise these golden-spooned young ladies. If there was scandal with a young lady who no longer was a virgin, it will be a matter of major importance. So she must find out. With a sinking face and an aggravating the tone, she said, Dr. Liu, don't mind about others. Please tell me, what is this girl's illness? Why did she suddenly bleed and faint? As long as you explain truthfully, it will be fine. He feeling that he was acting quite well, Dr. Liu felt he deserved that reward. He sighed deeply and whispered to Jiu Li, Jiu Li, I cannot hide this from you. This is a joyous pulse. She has conceived, but due to the body's weak health, the pregnancy is unstable. There is a chance of miscarriage at any time. By your judgment, what prescription should be given? He stopped talking at that moment. There was no need to speak too explicitly. When ladies are pregnant, it is natural to prescribe medicine. These prescriptions come in two kinds, one for protection against miscarriage, the other for a miscarriage. Looking at her, he awaited her command. Jiu Li frowned and said, Dr. Liu, are you sure this is a joyous pulse? There must be no mistake. Of course, Dr. Liu is patting his chest and said, Jiu Li, do you still believe in my expertise? It is a joyous pulse for certain. Furthermore, it is nearly 2 months old. Hearing this, Jiu Li did not hold any more doubts. Looking pale, she darkly swept the shadow behind the bead curtain. Really, she did not expect at His Royal Highness the Crown Prince's imperial concubine selecting Banquet that such a scandal would occur. Moreover, the girl in question was the lady most likely to become His Highness imperial concubine, South Yu's most talented female, Bai Ruo Qi. This Bai Ruo Qi really is bold. Already walking the streets with the Crown Prince and dared to give him such a green hat to wear. This is a great humiliation for the entire royal family. Although the voices of Jiu Li and Dr. Liu were very soft, but they were only separated by a thin bead curtain. So Bai Ruo Qi and Huang Yuli heard everything. You can also listen on. Anxiously mad, Bai Ruo Qi wanted to shout out loudly. However, no matter how hard she tried, she could only let out a short breath of air. Laughing beside her, Huang Yuli sat by the bed and listened with great interest to Dr. Liu outside. Wow! Second sister, you didn't? Pregnancy before marriage? I really did not see it coming, you are so brave. Oh, since Dr. Liu is so good at his trade, he will certainly not be mistaken. If the Empress Dowager were to learn of this, how will you become the imperial concubine? When Huang Yuli heard Dr. Liu's diagnosis, a look of surprise appeared on her face. Clutching her chest, she nervously asked. Eyes red, Bai Ruo Qi furiously gnashed her teeth. The reason why she fell to this point, was it not due to this little slut? Yet she continued to act. Ignoring her fierce eyes, Huang Yuli sweetly laughed. Second sister, why are you looking at me with such hatred? Sister, I'm so afraid. It's not like I told Dr. Liu to say that. Saying, she suddenly cried out an realizing something. Second sister, I know your character, I believe you will not mess around, and you are certainly not pregnant. Someone must have set Dr. Liu up to frame you. This is too vicious. Sister, I will definitely help you curse them every day. Hoping the son she gives birth to not be, and for her to marry an ugly, poor, and waste of a man. Not only this, but to also suffer domestic violence every day. Second sister, don't you agree? Let us curse her together. Bai Ruo Qi almost spat out blood. Plotting from behind the scenes, wasn't that her? Not only did he lifted the stone smash her own foot, and Huang Yuli also wanted her to curse herself. This damn girl is just too toxic. If things were really happened to how Huang Yuli cursed, she was better off dead. Bai Ruo Qi tuned in to the conversation outside. Dr. Liu was repeating all the things they had discussed in advance. Its purpose was to fully convince Jiu Li, so Huang Yuli will be beyond redemption. She knew better than anyone how lethal those words were. Now, this lethality was currently being shot to her own body. Jiu Li said, "Thank you, Dr. Liu. I must urgently convey this matter to Empress Dowager, and at that time, please also repeat your words to Her Highness. No matter what, you must not make a mistake." Court Dr. Liu solemnly nodded. Jiu Li, rest assured, I am very clear on what I need to do. I will not let Empress Dowager be hoodwinked. Well, Kui Qiao, go over to the Empress Dowagers to report this. Yes. Sending a maid to the Empress Dowagers, this step was also planned by Bai Ruo Qi with Dr. Liu. Once the incident involved the Empress Dowager, there would be no possibility of turning over a new leaf for the lady who lost her virginity before marriage. At that time Bai Ruo Qi felt very clever. But now, she wished dearly for time to turn back, taking back the words she spoke with Dr. Liu. But it was too late. Accepting the order, Kui Qiao immediately left. Bai Ruo Qi's heart burned, but had no way to prevent any of this. Not long after, Kui Qiao came back to report. Jiu Li, once learning of this, the Empress Dowager flew into a big rage. She's personally coming over and is about to arrive soon. She said that it is necessary for her to personally dispose of young Miss Bai. In the presence of the various young ladies, allowing them all to see what will happen to someone who dared to do such a shameful thing. Bai Ruo Qi was covered in cold sweat. It was at this moment that the eunuch's shouts sounded from far away. The Empress Dowager, I ask of all the young ladies to start kneeling. You can also listen on. Once the Empress Dowager arrived, everyone scrambled to their knees madly. It was no longer appropriate for Huang Yuli to continue to hide within the curtains. She regretfully looked Bai Ruo Qi, second sister, I want to help you here, but I have to go out to greet Her Highness. You stay here and rest, I will leave first. Bai Ruo Qi gnashed her teeth to death, but did not make a sound. Strolling away lightly, Huang Yuli hid in the back of the crowd, seamlessly fitting in. She could hear the Empress Dowager say, at ease, to these young ladies, you may sit down. Only then did Huang Yuli look up. She had heard people say that the Empress Dowager usually stayed indoors reciting scriptures after entering her senior years, while also doing quite a few charity works in her spare time, quite a friendly and old lady. But at that current moment, there was not a trace of kindness on the Empress Dowager's face. She could only see a straight face that coldly gazed at the crowd in front of her, filling the room with her royal and dignified presence. Of course, in the face of such a shameful situation, Even though with the temper of a kind old lady, she would still be angry. Before Huang Yuli could rejoice in happiness, she could not help but frown the moment her eyes landed on the person beside the Empress Dowager. Next to the Empress Dowager was none other than the most favored concubine of the palace, Empress Shu. According to the rumors, not only was Empress Shu beautiful, she was well versed in poetry and painting. Her cultivation talent wasn't bad either. The 9th prince that she gave birth to is second only to His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, a 4th-grade talent. Only this year, the 9th prince is 12 years old, not in the list of Crown Prince candidates. Of course, more importantly, Empress Shu is Wu Wei Manor Madam's blood sister and Bai Ruo Qi's blood aunt. In the moment Huang Yuli saw Empress Shu, she knew that an unexpected situation had occurred. Unfortunately, Bai Ruo Qi had escaped today. And the situation may become worse. Sitting down, the Empress Dowager said in a cold voice, "Which one is Wu Wei Manor's girl, suspected of losing her virginity before marriage? Why haven't you shown yourself? Do you expect for this royal to coax and plead you?" Empress Shu solemnly bowed, "Your Highness, please quell your anger. It is because young Miss Bai suffered very heavy injuries. So it is difficult to move. She was seriously injured because she asked for it. Tell Dr. Liu to give her a pill to recover the stamina, then quickly come out." Yes, yes, yes. The Empress Dowager's chest constantly moved up and down from anger. Empress Shu hurriedly supported her and consoled, "Your Highness, Empress Dowagers, please calm your anger. Even if such a thing occurred, although scandalous, such anger will affect the body's health. It is not worth it." Saying this, her eyes made a lap within the crowd, as she wanted to exchange a look with Bai Ruo Qi. How was she to know that no matter how many times she looked, she failed to find anyone? Slightly frowning, Empress Shu felt something was amiss. The things Bai Ruo Qi was going to do in the palace today, the madam had mentioned a few words to her, asking her to fan the flames at the key moment in the presence of the Empress Dowager, ensuring the complete suppression and eradication of Huang Yuli. It was nothing more than a few words. Nothing difficult to do. Since Empress Shu had always been quite close with her sister during childhood, naturally she agreed to such a task. Therefore, since the moment she arrived at the Empress Dowager's Palace of Compassion and Tranquility, she had been waiting for Bai Ruo Qi's good news. Originally she was a bit worried that Bai Ruo Qi would not be able to find the opportunity to use the medicine, or be discovered. The results proved otherwise. Though that girl was young, she could still get things done. It wasn't until noon that Jiu Li sent someone to report to the Empress Dowager that someone had fainted in the palace due to a miscarriage. At this news, Empress Shu let out a sigh of relief. Knowing it was her time to appear, she followed the Empress Dowagers and rushed to the scene. You can also listen on. Empress Shu looked around, calling over a maid at the side of the palace. Strangely she asked, "Where is second young Miss Bai? Why is she not here?" The palace maid looked at her, then looked at the Empress Dowager, speaking but then hesitating. Second Miss Bai, what happened? What happened to Chia?" "Yes, why is Chia not here? Is it because she is looking after her sister?" Even the Empress Dowager questioned. When Kui Qiao reported to them, she only said it was Wu Wei Manor's young miss. Both Empress and the Empress Dowager naturally assumed that the protagonist of this scandal was third young Miss Bai. This was due to the rumors they had heard regarding her associations with outsiders, and a wastrel that was not properly raised by a mother and father. It would not be unusual for such a thing to happen. But Bai Ruo Qi was not the same. In everybody's mind, she is the perfect example of a lady. The palace lady did not dare answer, while the various young ladies seated below also held unusual expressions. Empress Shu frowned, wanting to ask again. At this moment, Jiu Li had already dragged a haggard and hobbling girl out of the room. "Chia, why is it you?" Eyes opening wide, Empress Shu immediately exclaimed aloud. Bai Ruo Qi blinked her eyes, 2 lines of tears shed from the corners of her eyes. The more emotional she became, the more she cried and choked as she clutched her throat. She was still unable to speak. What happened? "Chia, why do you not speak?" Agitated, when Empress Shu saw her, She immediately understood that things did not go as planned. Bai Ruo Qi had drunk her own medicine. Bai Ruo Qi gestured desperately, pointing to her throat. Empress Shu hurriedly shouted, "Dr. Liu, what is going on? Why is second young Miss Bai unable to talk? Hurry and examine her. If you cannot treat her, you will be questioned." The moment Dr. Liu saw the person inside the curtains, he was also shocked. This, what is going on? Did they not say they were going to frame third young Miss Bai? Why did the person behind the curtains become second young Miss Bai? Why did such up happen? Then he remembered how resolutely he announced that the lady possessed the joyous pulse. Oh my God! The great flood washed away the Dragon King's temple. What should he do now? Prompted by Empress Shu, Dr. Liu quickly rushed over to Bai Ruo Qi. The Empress Dowager was initially shocked, then doubts began to arise. What is going on? Can anybody explain the situation? Do you mean to say that such a shameful thing was actually done by our beloved Qia? How can this be? Empress Shu stepped forward to comfort the Empress Dowager. Your Highness, please calm your anger. This concubine watched Qia grow up. I believe she will not make such a mistake. There must some kind of misunderstanding. The Empress also do not want to believe that the daughter-in-law candidate she had been so optimistic about would turn out to be such a person. Well, then we will wait for Dr. Liu to cure Qia and listen to her story. Dr. Liu did not speak for a long time. What was wrong with Bai Ruo Qi? No one knew more clearly than him. He did not need to feel her pulse to diagnose what was wrong. He did not know why her meridians were sealed, but this is not something difficult to cure. As long as she takes a first-grade upper-level Qi recovering pill, she would be able to recover. However, he did not know what he should do at that moment. With the situation escalating to such a degree, Bai Ruo Qi will definitely want to wash herself clean. But if Bai Ruo Qi wanted to prove she was not pregnant, it would implicate him. Meaning the person in the wrong would be him, the court doctor. This would also mean he had diagnosed second Miss Bai incorrectly. You can also listen on. Dr. Liu was hesitant, stalling for time as he refused to say his diagnosis was incorrect. Becoming impatient, the Empress Dowager frostily said, "What is going on? Dr. Liu, can you not cure it?" Then this Empress will ask for another court doctor. Cold sweat appeared on Dr. Liu. If another court doctor was requested, he would be able to tell what tricks he was up to with one glance. However, if no doctor was invited, he will have to heal Bai Ruo Qi, and if Bai Ruo Qi recovered her ability to speak, she will bite him back. He was in a dilemma. Countless grievances in his heart, he lamented and wondered why he took such a hot potato in a muddled-headed moment. Sitting on the sidelines, Empress Shu understood a bit more. Walking to Bai Ruo Qi, she took out a bottle of pill from her sleeves. Pouring out several pills, she casually stuffed them into the mouth of Bai Ruo Qi. As a cultivator, she would carry bottles of blood-recovering and qi-recovering pills on her body. And as an empress, the quality and effects were also very good. Bai Ruo Qi swallowed qi-recovering pills. When her sealed body suddenly received the supplements, she quickly broke through Huang Yuli's restrictions in one fell swoop. Throat itching, she cried out in our sound. Empress Shu said, "What is going on here? The Empress Dowager is here, what do you have to explain for yourself?" She signaled at Bai Ruo Qi with her eyes. In fact, even if Empress Shu did not give this hint, Bai Ruo Qi knew what to do. Arriving at this juncture, if she does not cut off this relationship, she would truly be ruined today. Of course, even now, her face had been lost all the way back to her grandmother's home. But she could only walk shamelessly down this path. Rather shame, than to be identified as a loose woman. Biting her teeth, tears rushing down her, Bai Ruo Qi threw her whole body to the ground. "Aunt, Empress Dowager, Qia is wronged. Qia absolutely did not do any inappropriate before marriage. Please, my two elders are smart, you must find justice for Qia. Usually she is already very good at acting. But today, she was definitely acting from the heart." Her plan reversed by Huang Yuli, she spewed 100 grievances from being framed. In the instant she saw Empress Shu, All her grievances and sadness came pouring out non-stop. Her tears water falling down. Is that so? The Empress Dowager thoughtfully looked at her, voice cold she asked. You keep saying that you are innocent, but Dr. Liu diagnosed you with a joyous pulse. How do you explain this? How can you prove that you are still pure in body? This, it can't be, Bai Ruo Qi. Bai Ruo Qi really. At the Empress Dowager's questioning, the audience rose up in an uproar. Although Bai Ruo Qi collapsed, they still had their doubts. After all, this kind of thing is quite dubious. No one was convinced, they all thought they were overthinking. Could it be, Bai Ruo Qi actually dared? Although they could not openly talk about it in the presence of the two empresses, but they all exchanged private looks of shock and gloating eyes. Bai Ruo Qi was just too high profile and unattainable. Although she displayed the appearance of politeness, but she conveyed a lofty and above others attitude that could not put anyone in her eyes. Coupled with her public displays of flirtations with the crown prince, she incited the jealousy of many. You can also listen on. Unfortunately, no matter how jealous they were, Bai Ruo Qi had everything: talent, a good family and superior cultivation. So no one could offend her. And everyone all expected her to become the imperial concubine, a princess. But such a scandal suddenly broke out. This made them laugh to death. As Bai Ruo Qi listened to the whispered laughter around her, her face turned beet red. From infancy to now, never had she felt this much shame. Moreover, it was in front of so many generations of noble aristocracy. From young, she was the ruler of these aristocratic young ladies, existence of envy and a model for all of them. But now she had been reduced to a joke for them. Angry and anxious, Bai Ruo Qi refused to take this and hurriedly explained herself loudly. Your Royal Highness, Empress Dowager, today, I only drank 1 cup of wine in the peach blossom banquet. I did not expect to suddenly experience unbearable abdominal pain, and fainted from the pain. I thought it was just an irregular symptom that occurred. I did not expect Court Dr. Liu to arrive and say I have the joyous pulse. I do not know what is going on, but I really have not done anything shameful. If you did not do anything, why did a joyous pulse appear? Jiu Li could not help but interrupt. Second young Miss Bai, are you implying that I have wronged you? No, this is definitely not related to Jiu Li. Bai Ruo Qi was still sensible. She knew that Jiu Li was the Empress Dowager's person, someone who could not be offended. Eyes flickering back and forth, she steeled her heart and decided to sacrifice Court Dr. Liu. I do not know what is happening, but this is definitely a misdiagnosis. Court Dr. Liu, when you were examining, why did you not examine properly? Do you know what responsibilities you hold when you announce the joyous pulse? The Empress Dowager coldly swept gaze over Court Dr. Liu. Court Dr. Liu is the head doctor of the imperial physicians, examining countless court ladies. Is it possible for a diagnosis error to occur? Then he examined blindly, face deathly pale. Dr. Liu did not know how to justify himself. He continued to knee on the ground and cried, Your Royal Highness, this official is definitely impartial to all affairs. How can I possibly misdiagnose? Second young Miss Bai truly has a joyous pulse. A trace of a poisonous streak flashed through Dr. Liu's eyes. It was obviously Bai Ruo Qi who messed up the plan, drinking the wrong wine and causing such an accident. But to be free of the blame, she shifted the responsibility on his head. God knows what the punishment would be for a misdiagnosis. And when this is coupled the disastrous consequence of nearly affecting the concubine selecting process, he could no longer hold on to his position of head doctor. He could also be sent to the dungeons for punishment. Unfortunately, Bai Ruo Qi did not care about him at all. Opening her mouth to directly proclaim a misdiagnosis. Since she backstabbed first, she could not blame him for the 15 return strikes. You are spewing nonsense, refusing to admit to your misdiagnosis. Insisting on sullying my good name. Second young Miss White, I do not dare. Since the joyous pulse has been discovered, you still wish to deny it. Each insisting on their claim, they argued in front of the Empress Dowager. Sitting in the last row, Huang Yuli watched the two quarrel in amusement. Inwardly, she commentated, Gee, a dog biting a dog, a mouthful of fluff. Unfortunately, Dr. Liu mostly likely will not be able to out-argue Bai Ruo Qi. Hi, unfortunate. Sure enough, Empress Shu stood up and said, Your Highness, do not worry. Whether or not it is a misdiagnosis is very easy to judge. Just go to the Imperial Physician Institution and have a few doctors examine her pulse. Listen to what others have to say. Yes, Empress Shu speaks reasonably. When the Empress Dowager realized this point, she immediately commanded it. Jiu Li, go right now and call all the doctors who are on duty. You can also listen on. Court Dr. Liu turned deathly pale. He desperately hoped that the Empress Dowager would avoid summoning other court doctors to verify this truth. When he was arguing with Bai Ruo Qi, how was he to expect the intervention of Empress Shu? What should he do next? Just as Court Dr. Liu was at his wit's end, filled with cold sweat, an idea suddenly appeared in his mind. Just doing this, was it a bit too hard? However, who told Bai Ruo Qi to frame him first? She could not blame him. Not long after, Jiu Li brought over someone people from the Imperial Physician Institution. Apart from the 4 court doctors, even the institution's vice-heads had arrived, making a total of 6 people. The Empress Dowager commanded, take turns to check second young Miss Bai's pulse. Find the cause of her fainting. Yes. 2 doctors first walked up to complete their diagnosis. Not long afterwards, all 6 court doctors had completed their medical diagnosis. The Empress Dowager asked, what problems have you found? Speak in succession. In the face of such an ugly scandal, all information is crucial. This royal will not be angry and punish anyone for speaking their mind. But if you were to talk nonsense, then, do not blame Ari Jiao for being ruthless. Yes, 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 please rest assured. This will not speak any useless drivel. The first court doctor to step out began his report first. Your Highness, Empress Dowager, second young Miss Bai's illness is not complicated. She merely took a tonic with ferocious after-effects. This led to excessive blood flow from bursted meridians. This explains the bleeding. As for the issue of losing consciousness, it may be anemia from the excessive bleeding. He paused and could not resist but to say a few more words. This official really wants to advise second young Miss Bai. This medicine should not be eaten carelessly. Even though you martial practitioners have stronger immune systems, but taking too much of something will leave very bad after effects. In worst-case scenarios, you will die. In other words, this is not a joyous pulse. Her Highness asked. Joyous pulse? The court doctor returned with a surprised look. How? This pulse is too much different from a joyous pulse. Absolutely impossible to mistake this. Second young Miss Bai's symptoms, which unlearned doctor diagnosed her? From what school did he obtain his qualifications from? Who knows, it might be that very doctor you gave second young Miss Bai the medication. The Empress Dowager asked the remaining number of doctors, all saying something similar. As a result, the truth surfaced. Obviously, Bai Ruo Qi was not pregnant. So the question of her lost virginity before marriage, there remained no more than baseless doubts. Relieved, Bai Ruo Qi's face revealed a trace of a sneer. Her dark gaze swept over Huang Yuli's body. Fortunately Empress Shu was present. Thankfully she was quick-witted. Otherwise this time, she would be killed by that little slut. More than that, she would not eat face down. She will ask for her good third sister when they returned. Aware of her gaze, Huang Yuli blinked and suddenly laughed. Oh, my second sister, you didn't think that this was the end? So naive. Scamming so many people, yet you thought that this situation would end so easily. Although Bai Ruo Qi could not hear her murmurs, but she saw her laughter. And could not help but secretly wondering, what is this little slut laughing at? Does she still want to do something? No, that's impossible. As long as I proved my innocence, what could she do to me? At this moment, she heard the shaking voice of Court Dr. Liu. Your Highness, Empress Dowager, please do not be angry. This official deserves 10,000 death. But official also has his own difficulties. Your Highness, please give this official an opportunity to explain himself. You can also listen on. Before the Empress Dowager could speak, Empress Fei snapped out. Silence. Did you not hear the statements of the various court doctors? This pulse is impossible to misdiagnose. So you deliberately misdiagnosed in hopes of corrupting the reputation of second young Miss Bai. Daring to lie in front of Her Highness, this is a grave crime. Now your conspiracy was revealed, you dare to quibble. This official is not quibbling, but afraid of Her Highness being fooled by others, committing such a crime, but hold no intentions to repent. And you want to continue making stories to deceive the Empress Dowager? This official has already been convicted and is willing to receive punishment, but he cannot allow for the perpetrator who plotted from the shadows to escape. Shut up. Hearing him mention the shadow perpetrator, Empress Shu quickly cut off him. Guards come, drag this deceitful sinner off and place them in the dungeons. The crime of has conclusive evidence against him. Everything you say is useless. The guards beside Empress Shu immediately obeyed her command and dragged Court Dr. Liu outside. No, 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 no. Because Court Dr. Liu's mouth was tightly covered by the guards, no matter how hard he tried, he was unable to speak of his protest. Waving her hand, Empress Shu waved her hand to inform the bodyguard to quickly drag him away from the Empress Dowager's attention, now that Bai Ruo Qi's injustice was finally washed away. This fool must be quickly dragged away to not affect the election of concubine selecting. If news of this poisoning were to leak out, they would be finished. Chest heaving up and down, the Empress Dowager almost had an asthma attack. She was surrounded by court doctors, so she had no energy to spare for the ensuing circumstances. They watched Court Dr. Liu being dragged out of the peach blossom orchard. Wait a moment. A crisp and sweet voice sounded. Her voice was not loud, but it contained an amazing penetrating power. Swallowing her pills, the Empress Dowager calmed down and heard someone say something. Surprised, she turned her head to look. At the edge of the peach blossom orchard, a young girl dressed in white slowly appeared. She looked soft, appeared elegant in temperament. It seemed as if she was different from the rest of the others. In the trees and under the pink petals, that childish face looked particularly delicate and tender pink. Whose daughter is this? When Ari Jiao looks at her, why does she feel such destiny? How come she has never been seen before? Does she not come to the palace often? Throwing out this remark, Empress Shu and Bai Ruo Ari heard alarms bells ringing in their hearts. That damn girl, a thorn in their flesh. Wasn't it that little wastrel slut, Huang Yu Li? Empress Dowagers adored young girls, but there aren't many princesses in the royal palace. So many daughters of ministers and nobles could show their faces in front of the Empress Dowager and obtain rewards. Bai Ruo Qi was one of them. Previously, Bai Ruo Qi did not think that her third sister with her personality, even if she could enter the palace, she would only receive the Empress Dowager's dislike. How would she know in the past month? This damned girl seemed to become a completely different person. Not only did she attract the attention of the crown prince, she was even gaining the Empress Dowager's, enough to say giving her a feeling of destiny. This was enough. For a moment, Empress Shu did not know how to answer. Using accusing eyes, Jiu Li immediately stood up and said, "Your Highness, this young lady, you held her when she was younger." "Oh, who?" The Empress Dowager became even more curious. "How come I cannot remember?" Jiu Li smiled and said, "This is third young Miss Bai, the only daughter of Wu Wei Manors by Liu Feng. You also bestowed her a title of Region Princesses too." The Empress Dowager suddenly said, "So she became such a cute girl. That year, she was the most sensible little girl, even more obedient than some of the Empress princesses." Suddenly, her eyes turned more affable. You can also listen on. Jiu Li flatteringly said, "Your Highness' memory is still so good. More than a dozen years have passed, yet you still remember it so clearly." The Empress Dowager was very happy and said, "Turns out it was Li girl. Ari Jiao still remembers you. That year when you accompanied by Liu Feng into the palace, you were still young and already a beautiful child, very gifted. Back then, everyone all agreed that you would grow up to be a proud and beautiful girl. In a flash, you have grown so big. Come and let Ari Ji have a look." With light and graceful steps, Huang Yu Li walked towards the Empress Dowager. When she passed Bai Ruo Qi, Bai Ruo Qi's glare practically spewed out flames. Meeting her gaze, Huang Yuli returned with a gentle and sweet smile. Your Royal Highness, Empress Dowager, I plead for pardon on behalf of my second sister. Please allow my second sister to stand up. Not only was she injured, she was then misdiagnosed, suffering quite a lot. To kneel down again, I am afraid that she won't be able to bear much longer. As soon as she opened her mouth, it was to aid Bai Ruo Qi. The Empress Dowager laughed. This girl, quite caring for your sister. This sisterly relationship is very good. This is Ari Jio's negligence. Someone come help second young Miss Bai and allow her to rest by the side. Bowing deeply, Huang Yuli, thanking the Empress Dowager, giving her a seat, the Empress Dowager said amiably, Li girl, you have not entered the palace for many years, right? Truly too pitiful. Listening to your uncle, I hear that your body has been weak in health for the past few years, constantly in bed. Hearing this, Ari Jio has been quite concerned for you. Truly did not expect to see you today, and with such vitality. Huang Yuli replied, thanks for the Empress Dowager's concern. Leah has also missed you. Unfortunately for the past few years, even though it is better now, I was unable to cultivate. Due to my fear of being made a joke, I did not dare to enter the palace or go out. But it is different now. Listening to this, the Empress Dowager's eyes shone bright. So you can cultivate now? The more she looked at Huang Yuli, the more the Empress Dowager liked her. In terms of her birth, she was the daughter of Bai Liu Feng, a 7th staged master. In the small country of South Yu, Sa's 7th stage expert was absolutely worthy of the title Master of the World. In contrast, Bai Ruo Qi's father Bai Liu Jing was but 9th level defensive profound practitioner. Although both are from Wu Wei Manor, anyone with a bit of brains would be able to see the disparity between the two. The Empress Dowager and the Emperor also knew who was the true first daughter of Wu Wei Manor. If it were possible, they do not want to select Bai Ruo Qi. However, the previous Bai Ruo Li was just too lacking. And with all the rumors spread over the years, they all described her as weak, sickly, and petite. Not only that, there were also rumors of illicit affairs with a man. With such a character, how could she become the Crown Prince's imperial concubine? As a result of this, she had not allowed Bai Ruo Qi to advance. Originally, the Empress Dowager truly believed those rumors. But when she saw the real person, she knew that they were not credible. Looking at this young girl, whether it was looks, temperament, grace or attitude, they were all superior. Even the royal princess could not compare. Furthermore, she is both affectionate and righteous, concerned about her sister's well-being. This added extra points in the Empress Dowager's heart. Empress Dowager's impression towards Huang Yuli rose immensely. The only regrettable thing was her inability to cultivate. You can also listen on. That year, this little girl's talent test was conducted in the palace, a well-known truth. That was not some baseless rumor, as the Empress Dowager herself witnessed this event. Feeling sorry over this matter, the Empress Dowager could not help herself but feel a burst of surprise when she heard Huang Yuli's words of being able to practice again. Questioning her, she wished to know the answer. Huang Yuli merely smiled. Just as she was about to answer, her eyes traveled to a remote corner of the peach blossom orchard. This caused her to stand up immediately. Wait. Do not leave like this. Surprised, the Empress Dowager asked, What's wrong? Huang Yuli looked in that direction and shouted, Empress Dowager, please do not take Court Dr. Liu away. Leah just heard him say there is a mastermind behind this whole affair. Let him explain himself clearly, or else the culprit may escape. The Empress Dowager turned to see Court Dr. Liu being dragged away. She frowned. How? There is a hidden story. Huang Yuli nodded her head and said, Your Highness, please consider this Court Dr. Liu is just a doctor, so why would he deliberately say that my second sister had a joyous pulse? Framing my sister, where is the benefit for him? Clearly someone instigated this from behind the scenes. If this person is not captured today, then my second sister would have suffered for nothing. Thinking for a while, the Empress Dowager thought this made sense. You're right, this, I'm afraid, really is not that simple. Taking the chance when the two were discussing this, Empress Shu secretly indicated for the guards to quickly tow the prisoner away. Who knew, she was still a step too late. Your Highness, this is not simple. However, for such an ill-hearted person to destroy your peach blossom banquet, it is the negligence of this concubine. Therefore, please allow for the Ministry of Justice to investigate this affair. While my senior, you should rest your heart and enjoy the blossoms with your full attention. Empress Shu was barely smiling, as she tried to convince the Empress Dowager. Huang Yuli wrinkled her brows and frowned. Empress Shu, although you have good intentions, but this thing must be made clear now. My sister suffered so many condemnations, yet you intend to write it off as a misdiagnosis. Are you even putting Wu Wei Manor in your eyes? I cannot allow for my elder sister to suffer such injustices. She spoke with grandeur, in a righteous and awe-inspiring manner. Even the Empress Dowager had been touched. Good. You are a good child, treating your sister really well. This makes Ari Jio feel happy. Second sister is my relative. Oh, good child, good child. The Empress Dowager was full of praises for Huang Yuli. Empress Shu and Bai Ruo Qi almost vomited blood. Which little slut was treating her elder sister well? Should it be that she could not wait to kill her own sister? They did not expect her cheap act to sell so well. Obviously she was the most insidious one. Even the Empress Dowager Queen Mother was cheated on their very first meeting. Experiencing great difficulties, the two people felt nauseous. Like they had just swallowed flies. Her Highness waved her hand. Quickly bring Dr. Liu back to Ari Jio. Let him confession the identity of the mastermind. Leah, rest assured, for Ari Jio will definitely seek justice for your sister. Definitely will not allow for her to suffer for no cause. Bai Ruo Qi was in tears. She would rather be wronged. She did not want the Empress Dowager to investigate. However, those words were spoken by Huang Yuli. There was simply no room for her to protest. Feeling hopeful, Dr. Liu's hatred towards Bai Ruo Qi increased. Being brought back, he immediately fell on his knees and poured everything out. Your Highness Empress Dowager, thank you for giving me a chance and investigate into this matter. Today's affair of second young miss by fainting from blood loss truly occurred to do drugged wine. But the person who drugged the wine was no other than Bai Ruo Qi herself. You can also listen on. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.